Hello and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's firecracker episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. I am one of your hosts, Mr. Boomstick XL, and I can tell you, folks, sit back and get ready for 2 hours of a firestorm of a boom that you might be slightly surprised because I am not only packed with 2 cups of coffee, but there's some stuff going on that I need to address regarding especially Halo being the silo opening topic. And quite frankly, I think some changes need to come to 343, but I'll get into that in a moment. Let's introduce the panel so we can get right into these firecracker topics. We're going to start with one of the cogs that keeps this show growing each and every week. You know him as Master Chef. I know him as one of the nicest, kindest, most helpful people on the interwebs. Zemi Games, welcome, dude.
I really am the greatest, aren't I?
You certainly are.
You were really building it up. Yeah, dude, I'm super excited to be here, man. Cannot wait. Xbox Factor podcast again on Thursday. It's really what I look forward to probably the most in a week. And I know that sounds dumb, but no, it really is. I love hopping on this podcast with you guys, talking about Xbox, whether it's, we're talking about good topics like we usually do, or maybe some more maybe negative topics like what's possibly going to happen today. But anyway, regardless, super excited to be here, man. Thanks.
Well, thanks so much for being here as always. And obviously you are one of the founding fathers. You came in a little bit late after it started, but having you a part of this show has been a highlight for me personally. And your tenacity and knowledge in the Xbox platform realm is really extremely helpful to this show. So thank you for that. Next up, you know him as someone on loan from PlayStation Nation, the subtle voice who is up to 4 a.m. pulling what little hair he has on his head out because of technical issues. Please welcome the well-spoken, the potentially cranky Mr. Bad Bit. What's up, dude?
I am also on my second cup of coffee.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's been a trip. Trophy room this week. You know what? It's only me talking for an hour. That's nuts. That's crazy. Some people would say it's impossible. Some people say it couldn't be done, but I looked towards my friend Luke Lore and I'm like, he does it each and every week. Sure, a mediocre job at best, but at least he tries. He puts up the effort. Why can't I? And that's what I did this week. And you know what? It turned out freaking tastic. Go check that out. So yes. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to talk some Halo because I got some thoughts, y'all.
It's going to be a bit of a again. Look, folks. I want to say this before I get to the remainder of the guests, and this isn't because I'm concerned about what you think of me after I'm done, basically going on a rant live on the air about 343. I will say this: if you are one of the nearly 5,000 subs that I have, and I think I'm 12 away from 5,000, which is ridiculous. I'm going to be honest. If you're one of these folks, you tune in for a couple of reasons. One, you tune in for honesty, right? You tune in for integrity, and you tune in for someone that is going to be fair-minded and offer thought-provoking conversation on my shows. I will say, and I will toot my own horn here, they are well written, they are well researched, and I do that for several reasons. One, I feel a sense of responsibility towards this community that supports me. So I have to make sure that when I come on this microphone, all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed, because you deserve that and 10 times better. And for this particular opening topic, we're going to get into the weeds of why Halo has failed, and we're going to talk about potentially what they need to do to fix it. Because listen, I'm going to say this. I have been told by Microsoft brass that there are fans of this show at Redmond. I know that for a fact. And as a matter of fact, I'll go even more crazy and say that they're probably listening right now or will listen eventually. And once they hear what I have to say, and you're looking for the new blood that I believe Redmond and 343 and a few of the other studios need, my DMs and business email is open. I want to work at Microsoft. That's no secret. And I want to get there. And you know what? Maybe I don't have the paper. Maybe I don't have a doctrine or a degree that says he knows his shit. I have 40 plus years of experience. Plus, would be my second career. And I think I bring enough to the table that I can offer Microsoft some new blood. But let's continue with the introductions. Now, you know him as someone that came on the scene as a guest on this panel. He has not only exploded as one of my personal favorite YouTubers, his content is well produced, and he is all the way from the other side of the world. Please welcome Archimedes.
Oh, your introductions get more epic every time. Thank you so much for having me, man. I'm looking so forward to talk about all these things today. I'm all fired up, and I'm really glad to be on a podcast with VJ today. It's my first time with him on a show. We have been talking a lot in the DMs, and I can't wait to discuss all the things we have today with him and, of course, with the rest of the panel. So let's do this.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for being here. Certainly appreciate it. And again, I really do mean that your content has exploded. You are a stone throw away from 1,000 subs. That is a pinnacle part in a YouTuber's journey. So, folks, if you're not subbed to Archimedes, I highly, highly recommend that you get over to YouTube and you check out Archimedes there, or you can simply just click the link in the show notes and sub his channel. You will not be disappointed. And last and in no way least, making his absolutely first debut as a regular panel member, he is a very good friend of the show, someone that I believe is growing on many people within this community. Please welcome VJ. What's going on, dude?
You're too kind, Boom. You're too kind. No, it's just been fantastic to be here. Sorry about my croaky voice. Hope it doesn't affect the show too much.
Yeah, you'll be fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, I just want to get on with the show. It's just an exciting panel and fantastic topics. And I'm right there with you. I think the honesty, the integrity, and the varied opinions that this channel offers is, for me personally, second to none.
I appreciate that. That's very kind of you to say. And like I said, I stake my entire YouTube being on being honest and having tremendous integrity. And again, I don't put myself on many pedestals, but when it comes to honor and integrity, those are two things that are important to me. They have been since I was a kid. It's something that my father instilled in me, and I did that through my NYPD career as well as my very short-lived YouTube career of 3 years come November 3rd. But let's get into the opening topic. Now, look, as I sat here preparing for today's show, writing this particular show, I was hit with a multitude of emotions that included disappointment, anger, frustration, and confusion. And the reason for all of these heavy feelings came on the heels of this damning report that tells the tale of dysfunction at the highest level at 343 Industries. And, one of the reasons why I hope that you tune in to this particular program is because you want me to tell the truth. And you know that if you've been following me for a while, I am the first one of the first guys to rah for Microsoft, because it is where I lay my head at night. It's my console of choice, even though I support everything. It's where I play all of my third-party games because it is the most powerful console. I love my achievements more than trophies, and I love my friends list. And, of course, I love Xbox Live for what it offers. With that said, okay, I think that last week was a shitstorm for 343 Industries, and I would not want to have worked for that company or been a part of having to decide whether or not to delay Halo Infinite. But we have to talk about what has led up to the disaster that was last week for not only the Microsoft company, but the Xbox platform as a whole. And I tweeted at 343, and I'm paraphrasing because I could not find the tweet, and I said something to the effect is I have confidence that with proper time, the talented folks at 343 Industries will deliver a fantastic addition to the Halo franchise. Well, I'm going to tell you this right now. I am redacting that comment until proven otherwise, and I'm going to vote of no confidence, and here is why. After reading the rumored report from both Thurrott.com and IGN, who reported on what Thurrott.com wrote, I have to do something that is honestly breaking my heart. And that is call for no confidence in leadership at 343 Industries. And this new investigative report talks about a turbulent development cycle at Halo Infinite and this was published by Thurrott.com. In this report, it alleges that a number of factors have contributed to the game's troubled development and eventually an eventual delay from, of course, the Xbox Series X console launch into an undisclosed time in 2021, which I think is probably going to be fall of 2021 if they're smart. One of the major factors in Infinite's delay, according to the report, stems from the fact that a significant portion of the game was being outsourced to third-party contractors. Now, apparently, this is standard practice in the games industry, especially in AAA development. And in Infinite's case, the report suggests that the level of outsourcing has been unusually high, and the coordination between the many different companies contributing to Infinite has been rough at best. Now, I just want to stop the show for a second and say, what the fuck were they thinking? Okay, because this is your flagship title. It's Halo, it's Master Chief. And if this does not take the highest of the high priority for you, my God, I have to find out who is running this circus. And again, maybe I'm being a little dramatic. Maybe I'm being a little harsh. But as someone who has supported this brand from the day the first console launch to the excitement that I still have for the new console launching in a couple of months, this is a disgrace. And again, I'm not trying to sugarcoat this in any way. I'm not looking for extra clicks. If you want to give me the thumbs down and a fuck off, that's fine too. No problem. But if you can't see that there's a problem here, then obviously you're basically an ostrich and you're putting your head in the sand. So because I want to bring back, let's bring back the past, folks. You're always judged by what you did last, right? What have you done for me lately? Well, under the leadership that's currently Bonnie Ross, head of studio, and whoever the underlings are under her, let's just take a look at what they've done. Right? Master Chief Collection. It's fantastic now. It is an epic Halo adventure. But did that not take years to get back to where it should have launched from? Sure, it was a disaster at launch. An absolute utter mess. Halo 4. I absolutely love the single player. I thought it was fantastic. Graphically beautiful. Right? Multiplayer tried to copy Call of Duty and be something they weren't, and it failed on an epic level. Let's talk about Halo 5. Well, you know my feelings about Halo 5. I think Halo 5's story was garbage. Hot garbage. And I'm not the only one that agrees with that. Their multiplayer, absolutely fantastic. Groundbreaking, thought-provoking. People are still playing it. And now Halo Infinite, delay. Now, granted, you've heard me already say that the gameplay looks fantastic. The story is there with Atriox and the Banished and the Flood potentially coming back. I'm on board. I'm all good. But people didn't like the graphics. And is that because it's open world? I don't know. Is that because somewhere in the middle of, after 2 years of development through Unreal Engine 4, they decided to change it? Probably not so smart. And now we're in a pickle, right? So the source, getting back to the story, is claiming that it was that the outsourcing was at such a high ratio that a typical studio undertakes during development. It led to massive communication and collaboration headaches for 343. Okay, this is immediately a red alarm that someone should have been like, you know what? I think there's a fire over here, folks. Come and call the fire department because we got to put this shit out. Now, apparently, this is where it gets even more crazy, folks. Apparently, the E3 2019 trailer for Halo Infinite was outsourced while the game was not even in a playable state, which, of course, then oversold expectations for Infinite's later demo. And the marketing and engineering teams behind Halo Infinite have been on, listen to this, folks, 2 different planets. Not floors in Redmond, not countries, not plateaus. they were on two different. So basically, somebody was trying to develop it while they were on Venus, and the other team was here on Earth, and they couldn't figure it out because their communications just weren't cutting. Folks, this is madness. Well, this is just ridiculous. So the report also talks about the departure of the high-profile creators, such as Tim Longo and Mary Olson, who, for reasons unknown, left in 2019. They were both held the position of creative directors. Okay, this is a big deal. Now, again, I'll be the first one to say when they left, I'm like, nah, it's a little late in the thing. I think I didn't think it was a big deal. Boy, oh boy, was I wrong on a multitude of levels. And in another recent rumor is that the game was going to ship with multiplayer separate from the campaign just to get it out at launch. My God, thank goodness someone stepped in. Now, I want to say this. I know that there are going to be a lot of people that want Phil Spencer's head for this, and it's not him. And I'm not defending Phil, but I have, again, speak the truth. Phil is running all of Xbox. He has a lot on his plate coming up on a launch. The sole responsibility for first party is Matt Booty. And even taking Matt Booty out of the conversation, because he obviously oversees all of the first party studios, we have to look at the leadership at 343. And again, I met Bonnie Ross. She is a very passionate creator. She's very excited to bring Halo Infinite to the masses. But under her leadership at 343, we have seen a significant amount of failures for Halo. Part of Halo is good, the other part's not. This part is good, that one's part. This one's not working at all. Listen, folks, I would never say I want to see somebody lose their job, because that's not what I'm calling for. I'm saying that maybe, just maybe though, changes in key positions need to happen. And I've done enough talking. Zemi, listen, you obviously, we were talking like lunatics before the show went live, and I think I've gone off the deep end already, because I'm disappointed as a Halo fan who loves Master Chief and has been banging the Halo Infinite drum since its inception, since we were told about it. I feel let down. I'm interested to know what you feel about this new report from Tharot.com.
Well, I'll say this. I try to look at things from both sides, and I try to give the benefit of the doubt as much as I can. And I will say that I do think it is possible that things are being taken out of context, exaggerated, or possibly even fabricated in this case. Because, Halo was literally just delayed, and what better time to create new doubts in a studio, or for a studio than now, right?
I'm going to push on that immediately, though. We've heard stories from this. This is a culmination of things.
No, sure. And I'm not saying, and once again, I'm not saying that I completely back that statement, but I'm also not saying that, every single thing in this article must be true, and that, one source or another maybe didn't exaggerate certain elements of the story. I'm not saying that there's nothing in this story that's true. On the contrary, I actually believe a lot in this story is more than likely true, right? I'm just saying that I believe that we should look at it as, is everything being said exactly how it should be said? Are things possibly being exaggerated, or even possibly on the worst case scenario, fabricated and made up? I'm just saying that we should all keep that in our minds, because that is a possibility, regardless of the likelihood or not of it being, taking place. It's still a possibility. But like I was saying, after reading the articles, I think more is true here than not, right? I think for me personally, 343 is quickly becoming, the nightmare Xbox game studio, at least for me personally, right? I think that there's three key, points to, this article, or to these articles that came out. And the Halo TV show thing about like the management being more focused on the TV show than the actual game, that doesn't really bother me, for the simple reason why I'm very unsure of how much that is actually true. That is the real big thing that kind of just gets me questioning things. And of course, 343 did come out with a statement saying that it wasn't true, and that they have two dedicated teams, one working with Showtime on the television show, and one working on the actual game. And once again, maybe 343 is lying, but I still, there's just something that doesn't sound right about that, right? So the whole TV show, Halo TV show, Showtime, deal, whatever, that doesn't really bother me. The outsourcing, that doesn't really bother me either, because it's extremely common in game development. 343 is working, with a $500 million engine that I would imagine they also created, right? And creating a game engine in of itself is a task of creating a brand new game, right?
Right. Yeah.
They also started on development with Halo Infinite on the Unreal 4 engine, and then they switched over. They're creating a Halo from the ground up, right? They're putting in a lot of work. This is a big Halo. It's a huge undertaking. And, yes, their studio's large, but there's a lot of work to be done. And outsourcing is common. And I don't think it's that incredibly surprising that maybe more outsourcing is happening with this studio than what is previously, I guess, considered acceptable with other studios, right? What works for one studio may not work for the next. So that doesn't necessarily bother me if they're doing it correctly. What really bothers me here is that the lack of communication, is that the story in the article that states how the engineering team said that the game was not going to be ready, that they needed more time, and marketing's over here coming out, hyping everybody up for a release that, engineering is telling marketing that's not going to happen, right? That, I think, is the big problem, at least from what I'm looking at, is the lack of communication. And whoever, whether it be Bonnie Ross, whether it be, Matt Booty, whether it be whoever it is, allowing marketing to step, ahead and do things that are not very good for the brand, right? Allowing, going out and advertising things and building up hype and building up expectations that the actual development team are saying, whoa, we can't deliver on this. That is the problem. And that is what needs to be weaned out of here. I'm not going to necessarily go as far to say, let's grab our pitchforks and go after Bonnie Ross, or let's grab our pitchforks and go after Phil Spencer or Matt Booty or whatever, because I don't have enough information to go on to make, to make that, decision or whatever, or even think of that decision really. But there's definitely issues at 343, there's, and for some reason or another, I find it shocking how we're hearing about this way, and that this wasn't cut out by Phil or by Matt Booty or by Bonnie Ross earlier, right?
Yeah.
Because to say that Phil Spencer had no idea that this was going on, well, if he didn't, he has a really big damn problem. And if he did, then he has an even bigger problem, right? But ultimately, I would agree, that I think Microsoft, Phil Spencer, at Xbox, somebody needs to launch an investigation, needs to see what the underlying cause is to cause this, whether it is marketing, whether it is Bonnie Ross's leadership, whatever it may be, right? And they need to figure this out, and they need to fix it as quickly as possible, or they're just going to be looking at more articles just like this later on down in the road. And this is not what Xbox needs right now.
No, I agree. I mean, and Joe, I want to go to you next, Joe. And the reason why I'm going to you next is because I want to start off with this. See, I want people to understand that this isn't an attack on me, like pulling my Microsoft leg and taking my ball and going
This is
home.
a war.
Okay, this is, obviously we've seen this exact kind of scenario happen with The Last of Us 2. Now, I understand that it's still sitting at a 94, which is a travesty of justice. And gameplay strong, graphics beautiful, control amazing, story is not worth a bag of dicks. That's the truth of the matter. It's not worth a bag of dicks. The story is just an abomination. And as someone coming from a fan who enjoyed the series, it was the most disjointed, horribly told story. So there were problems. And we've seen the result of the problems, in my opinion, were the story placements, the story beats, the writing. There was a lot of things that went wrong. So it's not just a Microsoft problem.
Can I jump in real quick? I'm so sorry.
Sure.
I've noticed in the chat that a lot of people are talking about, the current world climate right now, and trying to use that as like
that's not an excuse. I'm sorry,
but it's not really an excuse, because the wording of the article would imply that this was happening ever since like 2009.
Yes,
this has been a long-term problem, not just not like within like the last 6 months.
Well, let me jump in here. So first off, Boom, I love the passion, and you know what? Like, I have a totally different take on Last of Us Part 2, but you know what? That argument of bag of dicks, I'm on board. With that, listen, we all want Microsoft to succeed. We all want Halo to succeed.
Sure, we do.
We want Halo to be the best it can be, and that's why when we hear these reports, I'm gonna kind of push back here on Zemio a bit. So you can come at me while I say this. This is a huge issue for them. There is no part of me where I think this story is fabricated. I think there is when we're going to hear things we don't want to hear, things we don't like to hear. Like, for the longest time, us as PlayStation fans, and we still are, bracing that moment when Microsoft announces that they're buying WB Games. We don't want to hear that news, but you know what we also don't want to hear? EA bought WB Games. Yeah. So again, we're bracing for it, but those things are perspectives. And so what we're hearing is perspectives from devs. When journalists are going out there, they're not making a false story to get a click. The good ones, at least. IGN cannot afford that reputation hit. Jason Schreier is known for giving the hard-hitting, even making it so that creative developers like Neil Druckmann don't like him very much type of stories. That's what they do. This is investigative journalism. This is the thing that we often want our game journalists, quote unquote, to be, and they're doing that, and it's uncomfortable news, and you should be uncomfortable by it. So what we heard from this, and I can't wait to hear what Archimedes has to say about the whole outsourcing thing, is this is a problem from the top. Yes, COVID definitely had a role to play in what is going on right now. There probably would have been a delay, even if things were going pretty damn smoothly, because of what the world situation is at the moment. It's a bit of a garbage fire. I totally get that. But the other news that is coming out is not something that it isn't a secret. We've known about this. We've seen the departures come firsthand. I remember, videos and podcasts going, oh, we have nothing to worry about. It's a year out. Or people being, no, we have some concerns. There are high level profile people leaving this game a year before it's supposed to release. And yeah, I'm excited for the Halo TV show. We were talking about it beforehand. Man, when I see a live action Master Chief, I cannot promise you I will not pop a chub, because I definitely will. But there is issues here that play. So like we talk about Last of Us, right? Example here, Neil Druckmann is a producer on the Last of Us TV show. He started working on the TV show as the game started to wrap up. It seems like what has happened here at 343 is they're trying to juggle multiple things at once. They're trying to juggle lore between the game and lore between the show that they're going to have to make canon, right? At the same exact time, they are having development issues. Let us not pretend for a second here that switching your engine and creating a whole entirely new engine midway through development would not be a issue going forward, or not have a prolonged launch because of that. So yes, there are issues here that definitely sting 343, and yes, Phil Spencer has been well aware of. I bring back to this MinMax interview that they had with the gang over at Visceral, two of the former devs. One of them was the head of the office, and there would be times where they're having such heated conversations. They would be talking directly with the CEO, and Jurgensen would say, all right, you got 10 seconds. And then like after that, like they would literally have 10 seconds to make their case, and he would just hang up on him. Right now, I'm not saying that's what Phil Spencer's doing, but what I am saying is that there is a line of communication between 343 and Phil, constantly. This is their prize. This is their flagship franchise. This is what put Microsoft's on the map when it came to console games. They definitely have a line of communication with each other. Let's not even say that they don't. They do. So yes, Phil knew that there was problems, and yes, I bet you when the time comes, Phil will be like, I take full responsibility of whatever is going to come of this, because that's the type of guy Phil Spencer is.
Yes.
So at the same exact time, there's problems here managerially, and seeing the contract work that's coming in. I'm an outside looking in guy. So I really, Archimedes, I want to bring you in here, dude, because I don't want to talk out of my ass, but the devs have come out and said, hey, listen, or people come out like, they're doing contract work to an insane degree, and they're working with an engine, this contract work, they're working with an engine that they have no idea what to do with, I'm assuming. So maybe you could tell me if I'm wrong here. Is throwing bodies at this situation going to actually help this game get put or get out there, get produced?
No, I don't think so. I don't think at this stage. You can definitely increase the quality of your game and your product with a higher body count. But you have to bring people on board. You can't do that from home, and you can't do that by just writing a contract to an external company and saying, okay, you have to design the skins for Greg. Yeah, and that's the result you get. That is really the problem. And whenever you outsource something, you have to put your own staff to monitor and track the other the outsourced company. Yeah, you regularly have to check upon their status. Are they doing the work? And what happens is you stop working yourself on the product. This happens all the time. I work also in engineering. I've worked for multiple companies, and it's the same. It doesn't matter which business you are in. It's everywhere the same. Whenever a company wants to either speed things up or save money, they try to outsource things. And I have really rarely seen that happen to success, because it happens in my company at the moment too. We try to outsource so many things, and we as the engineers stop working on our products because we are all busy tracking other companies. So if that is really the case at 343, this might be the one of their major issues, if you ask me.
Then to me, because then it gives me and I hate throwing this example. I'm not saying it to be a dick, guys. I get it. I'm the Sony guy. I have a bias here, but it does kind of give me Anthem vibes, where they had to build from scratch RPG mechanics and tools in Anthem that didn't exist because of Frostbite, and they would have to call up a person from DICE, a continent or a country away, to just make sure that if they had trouble coding a specific tool set in the game. What I think you're alluding to, and you can let me know if I'm right or wrong, is that you're taking people away that actually know the tool set in order to help train people on the fly that have no idea how to or have a vague idea what's going on.
Yeah, 100%. Exactly. This is the only way how you can do it. You have to, your best people have to train the external or the new guys. It's just how it is. You can't, that's something the secretary can't do. Yeah, you have to have your highly trained engineers, training them in the tools, explaining them how it works, and so on. And the minute they start doing that, they stop working themselves on the product and with the tools. And this is really an issue, especially if studios are getting bigger. Yeah, because the bigger you are, and 343 is Microsoft's biggest studio. Yeah, the bigger that you are, the more overhead you have. Yeah, you have to take a lot more time to organize stuff, to really have the studio running itself, and this is the overhead. And the bigger the studio is, the bigger the overhead, and the easier it seems to just outsource it. Okay, let's outsource I don't know, asset design. Yeah, so the grass doesn't have to be designed by someone from 343. Let's outsource this, and then we let the sound engine be designed by someone else. Yeah, and so on, and then suddenly you stop working yourself on the product. But in the end, you have to bring it all together. Yeah, because this is something you can't outsource. You have to get the assets created by Studio A, B, and C, and you have to meld it together into a good product. And the less you know about it, the harder and more difficult it is. And from all we have known, or heard now over the last few weeks, it kind of seems that this could be really an issue at 343. Because let me give you something else to think about. The biggest studio from Microsoft, a software company with the biggest budget, $500 million, has 5 years to come up with a new game. And the demo they have shown was captured from a build from January that was all pre-COVID. Yeah, I don't know when started the lockdown in the US. Here in Germany, it was March. Yeah, end of March, we started with the lockdown. And this build was from January. It was pre-COVID, 5 years in the making. And this is what the result was. Doesn't matter what happened, whether it was outsourcing or what else. The guys who are responsible for that are the managers. This is always the same. I bet that the team itself didn't even really see everything come together. Yeah, you are so stuck when you are the sound designer. You're stuck with your sound design. You don't look at the graphics engine that much. When you design, I don't know, Greg's face. Yeah, you don't look at the rest that much. This is how the regular developers in the studios work. But the managers have to bring it all together. And obviously, after 5 years in the making, with the highest budget in a Microsoft studio ever, this is the result. I'm sorry, but in that case, you have to take your hat and leave the company because you did not do a good management job.
Shit.
Yeah,
Shit,
I mean that's and you know something. This is coming from someone who is an Xbox fan, who is a Halo fan, who is looking at this from a professional point of view. Again, I'm not jumping. Listen, I want this to be understood. This isn't a topic that we're piling on the rabbit.
Yeah.
This is a topic of discussion simply because this report came out 2 days ago, and I actually haven't heard anyone talk about it. As a matter of fact,
honestly, if there's anyone we need to take seriously on this matter, look, me and Boom, we're not coders. We don't know what the fuck's going on most of the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like hearing you, Archimedes, talk about it, you know what you're talking about. You're not bullshitting around. And yes, you are an Xbox fan. You get excited over the hot chips thing, which I'm looking at
definitely.
like, oh, it's such a balanced machine. And I'm just looking at squares and rectangles going like, what is this? So like, we're not, I can't stress this enough. We're not trying to sound like dicks or, you know, people that we're saying this because we care. This is intervention,
yes,
you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We all want 343 to deliver a fantastic Halo game. That's what we want. And the question for us as a fans, and especially as fans that keep it real, is we have to ask ourselves, what happens after 5 years and the highest budget you have ever had for a game, and then you come up with that demo? I'm not saying it can't be fixed because the gameplay itself looked awesome. It did,
yes. And you know something, to your point, Archimedes, I don't mean to cut you off, but to your point, one of the hardest things to do is make good-looking gameplay. And they were able to, listen, the gameplay looked amazing. There's no doubt that the gameplay looked amazing. There's no doubt that the story element issue that I had with 4 and 5, with the Prometheans being just not the greatest of antagonists compared to what their story they're going to tell, that they started to tell in Halo Wars 2 is amazing. 2 out of the 3 amazing points of view, fantastic. We're excited. But when you look at again, this is a 2-tiered problem, and it might be multiple heads for this monster. All right, the graphics, they looked old. And they didn't look 6-month old. They looked considerably old, right, compared to what we're seeing in 2020, right? So that's problem number one. And problem number two, the delay and not being able to manage the team correctly and outsourcing too much. These are decisions that are coming from the top. And again, I'm not calling for anyone's job. It's not my place to do it. I'm just saying that there are questions and there are certainly enough doubts to say maybe, just maybe, changes need to be made to fix this. Because here's the thing. If they stick to the plan that I think they should, and what the hell do I know? I'm a knucklehead behind a microphone, so I don't account for shit except being a customer. But if they wait until the 20th anniversary, which is November 15, 2021, from today's date, that gives them almost 15 months of time to fix it, even with COVID. Yeah. Right? That gives them over a year and a quarter to get this to be the best Halo ever released, along with what? Really good story elements that we know about, and gameplay that looked amazing.
You know what would be even awesomer than that? If is awesomer a word? You know, this Halo. Thanks, bad bit. You know, like this Halo show. Like, I think I was reading an article and they were talking about how it was rumored to like be a first quarter 2021 drop. Like, if they could, you know, release this television show with the game, I think that would be amazing, and that would do really. I think that would do a lot of work to get a lot of people hyped for this new game and get previously uninterested parties interested in Halo.
Yep. Yeah, but what you would be asking is for them to be ready to go in 3 months, 3 or 4, 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, but the show could get delayed.
Yeah, no, it's true. The show is probably going to get delayed, like everything else in Hollywood. Yeah. But you know what? Listen, what I want to do is I want to bring in VJ, but before I do, let me just catch up on some of these super chats. We also have a new channel member. We have Sin Vendetta. He drops the first super chat of the day, and he says something very funny. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, "Here's to Boom for trying out a game that I think I conned him into playing and then returning. Shout out to Boom for at least trying Mortal Shell." Yeah, I did, folks. I gave it the old college effort. I died 31 times in the first 20 minutes, and I realized that I suck and do not have the patience for that type of game. So a game made by 13 people, Joe, we're not going to talk about it, but maybe we'll bring it up tomorrow on Breakfast at Boom. You're enjoying it because you like those games, but again, I tried it, just not for me. We have J4105NL drops an outstanding $3.50 super chat and says, "I love Boom's passion today." Yeah, well, thank you so much, dude. I just want to be honest. And we have a very good friend of the show. As a matter of fact, he is a very generous friend of the show. Robert Jones drops an outrageous $25 super chat and says this: "Too much good news this week for Xbox." And I agree with you there with the release of Battletoads, which we're going to talk about next. And I'm really, really enjoying. And I got a big hats off to Dlala Studios. My God, they pulled off what I think is an epic game that everyone should play. But he says, "Too much good news this week for Xbox. For you to start the show off with the Halo stuff. I wish someone would have attacked Brad Sams the way that the PlayStation engineer attacked Dust Golem, so this would not have been a non-issue." I mean, look, Robert, I agree with you. The reason why I decided to start the show with this wasn't because I wanted to start with a drag. I started the show with it because I want to put it behind us, because this is probably the last time I'm going to be talking about Halo for quite some time, and the rest of the show is going to be what you expect when you hear my programs: lots of fun, lots of excitement, lots of hope, and our thought-provoking conversations. So that's the whole reason. It wasn't because I'm looking to kind of drag everyone down. It just needed to be discussed. We have Victor Alstein drops an outstanding $5 super chat. $5 super chat and says, "Rod Ferguson outsourced 2 games and managed 3 projects together, and he stood his ground with no MS interfering. 343 just suffers from bad leadership." I mean, I'm not going to argue there. We have Steel Rain, who just became a channel member. Steel Rain, thank you so much for supporting Double Barrel Gaming. Super appreciate that. We also have Spider-Man drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, "You owe Remedy an apology. Control was just Too hard to make next gen, so you have to buy the $40 Ultimate Edition if you want the X Series X.
Lamest excuse I have heard in a long time.
Makes sense, right? Yeah, I mean, you saw what I wrote to them. So listen, VJ, you are someone that I think are going to bring a tremendous amount of worth to this show, simply because you've worn in this industry multiple hats. And I know that you have a lot to say. You've been hearing what everyone has to say, but I want you to incorporate your personal experience with what is going on at 343. And do you agree or disagree that major changes in leadership need to happen?
I've listened to everybody's thoughts in the panel, Boom, and they've all hit on some very interesting points. And all I can really do, being a small potato and going last, is kind of round out all of those comments and maybe add a little bit of my own thoughts to it. So I always treat articles with suspicion, always, because they are subjective and they're always going to write them in their own words. However, after reading it, which I wouldn't normally do, it got me thinking. So on this show, just before I go into the article, on this very show, I've gone into sort of macro level thoughts on 343 Studios and why Halo Infinite has a very generic look and feel, and especially for a title that should be blowing the public away. And I've also gone into details in terms of what Phil might consider doing going forward. So I'm not going to go into any of that, because if you want to know all about that, you can definitely tune into all of Boom's previous podcasts. So let's specifically focus on the article in itself. So what I thought might be helpful is to look at what historically goes wrong with, not just with Halo, but many projects in general, many that we don't even hear about, that have had $5, $10, $15, $20 million put into them that would never see the light of day, so to speak. So, and usually the main culprit is a misconceived project. So combine that with constantly moving goalposts, which in turn leads the team in all departments to make hasty fixes. And you end up with something like Halo in its current state, if that makes sense. Yeah. So, and now looking at the points in the article, I have to agree with Zemi this week, because I think that to a degree, they are slightly sensationalized, maybe to make the article more readable or maybe more talked about and so on and so forth, because everybody has an agenda at the end of the day. So I want to highlight just some specific questions that I have with it. So let's look at art outsourcing. Art outsourcing has been around for a very long time. It's not something new, and it's not something difficult. And flag systems are in place at every studio, small or large, and flags are quickly raised if there are issues. So now you might say, oh, well, the article says that the studio is using outsourcing to such a degree, it's impacting the project. And I think it's actually deflecting from whoever's said this, whoever the source is deflecting from the real issues within the studio. My question is, outsourcing compared to who? To what studio? When in history have we ever seen, and you've been gaming for 40 years, Boom, 40 years. When in history has outsourcing ever been a key reason to impact any game? I can't think of one. And also on top of that, is there a perfect ratio that someone's defined scientifically that said the internal crew versus the outsourced manpower needs to be at X, Y, and Z? I don't think so. I've never seen that in my time. It's really, really simple. Outsourcing is just management, systems, tracking, and most of all, common sense. The truth is, the project always comes down to a core set of people in the studio. That might be one person, it could be 10, given the size of the studio, it might be 12 at most, right? So that is where, in that core set of people, is where I think that the investigation or whatever, or review needs to go on, and where the tweaks, or as you put it, Boom, maybe the wholesale changes are needed to get Halo and the team back on track. No member of that team is bigger than Halo, in my opinion, as a fan of Halo, and disagree with me if you want, because we all want Halo to be good. So, but then people are raising the question about, COVID has caused issues. But I'm kind of agreeing with Archimedes, right? Because in Halo's case, I'm sorry to say, the whole outsourcing and the whole COVID thing doesn't entirely wash with me. COVID lockdown came into place in the US on March the 18th. That's
Yes.
months before launch of November. That's 5 months before Gold Master candidate. So you're coming at the end of the project, and I see 3 possible things here. You know what your final assets are that you're missing in the game. And if in fact something is missing, you have that ever-loved crunch period, and you can complete the missing components internally. Or number 2, something's happened along the lines of goalposts have been changed within the project, either because of issues or management have asked or marketing have asked for something different. Thus, the game was never going to hit in November 2020, and they knew this last year. Worse still, the worst issue that could be going on is that no one really knows what's going on at 343, and looking at it like this, it's at a cost, at a burn rate of $4 to $5 million per month. That's what's kind of like, I think, upsetting a lot of people, right? How can this happen? But it happens, right?
Right.
I know this may sound strange and off the cuff and so on and so forth, but it just seems like everyone at Xbox has seemed to have had known the issues, put their heads in the sand and hoping that Halo will resolve itself. So, but the savvy people in the studio, these issues were probably visible about maybe 2 years ago, what I'm considering. So I disagree. So I do agree that this has contributed to the departure of the creatives, that Tim and Mary, I think you mentioned.
Yes.
And possibly other important people as well that are unsung, that are unheard of, that are unknown, that could have been critical cogs within the development. But then people are also saying, coming at the situation, saying, yes, but other games are delayed as well. It's not just Halo. I agree, because they are multi-format, targeting multiple generations of consoles, and the primary reason for that is because developers are still learning and embedding the knowledge that they're gaining into the new systems and ensuring that the next generations run the current code base plus the additional bells and whistles these new systems afford. So I would say that the other delayed games also see in a far more cohesive state than Halo, without anywhere near the resources. Plus, they still have a release date, and Halo doesn't. And it goes back to a really key word that you said, Boom, indefinitely. So just parking that for a moment, just to go on to the Halo TV show. On the face of it, the TV show for me just seemed to be another very poor reason for a headline / smoke screen, if it's just not worth delving into. And to wrap up my point, sorry for going on.
No, please. This is why you're a part of the show, brother. You're bringing the fire. Thank you so much.
Sure. I just don't want to teach people to suck eggs and all that sort of stuff. Boom mentioned indefinitely, and that is a key word. There is no quick fix. And if we're looking for a quick fix, we're just applying pressure unnecessarily.
Yep.
343 has been attempting, in my experience, quick fixes and hacks to consistently changing goalposts, and it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So the 4 things that I would do: take a step back, do a proper review, apply fixes to the studio, decide on just the Series X and drop the other formats, get everyone back on their feet and singing from the same hymn sheet. Even November next year is not a lot of time in video gaming, and it's going to be irrelevant. That time and money, another 60, 70, 80 million dollars that goes into this project, is going to be wasted and irrelevant if changes to the structure and personnel are not made.
Thank you.
What they need, sorry, Boom. What they need is a single, clearly communicated vision, a target format to hit, and what that will do is energize the team and make the studio a lot longer. And I think we can look forward to a bright Halo.
I mean, dude, listen, let me tell you something. You completely knocked that out of the park. Going last or not, you really brought a lot of points that I think is important. And you know what? Again, I've never developed a game, so I don't understand that 15 months is not long. So for a development team, maybe that's not enough time. But I think that at this point, to do exactly what you said, not put additional pressure on the team and create hacks to fix a problem that's going to need more than some Band-Aids and a pack of gum. You're gonna need these 15 months to, again, 2 of the 3 major things that go into a game seem to be there based on that small trailer. Now, I can't say for sure that the story is going to be an award-winning, 99.99% meta that people are going to love. But to be fair, Atriox is one heck of an antagonist. The Banished have a tremendous lore and story that we don't know too much about. Most people skipped on Halo Wars 2. Even I didn't finish Halo Wars 2, so I don't know the end game. I don't understand what happened. What I do understand is that I'm interested as F to see what Atriox does, because he is a scary presence, and he is going to give Master Chief a run for his money. You take the gameplay, which we keep going back. The gameplay looked awesome. Let's not, I mean, graphics or not, the gameplay looked fun. It looked solid. It looked like it was going to be a big open world, something always happening around every corner, and you can run through it, or you can do what I do with these games and look at every nook and cranny and still get an awesome experience either way. I think those two key factors are there. Though this was a short demo, I don't know what the rest of the game looks like. It could be a whopping mess for all I know. But all I will say is agreeing with many people on this panel, including VJ, where I'm sorry to say, changes have to be made. And harking back to what VJ just said, get someone in there that has a direct vision. Here is the goal. See that goalpost all the way across the way? That is where we're going. We got 15 months to get there, to hit the anniversary of the 20th anniversary of Halo, so we could basically re-energize the team and re-energize the fan base. And we're going to be doing a double celebration. One, you're going to release Halo Infinite. Two, you're celebrating 20 years of Master Chief. It is a win-win across the board. The game just has to be brought to the winning goalpost. That's all they have to do. Let your offensive line run forward and plow through everyone, and just let your running back run to the goal line and score a touchdown. Shameless sports analogy. But look, folks, I don't want to beat this horse any more than I did. I think that everyone, in my opinion, completely knocked it out of the park. I think that we were all clear and concise. I think that there are some questions to the validity of the so-called source, but I'm going to be honest with you. If you told me that abagadicks.com is the one that produced this story, I'd be like, well, you know what? I don't know. If you told me Tweaktown ran this, I'd be like, Tweaktown, they're really a bunch of bag of dicks over there. Fine. Oh, but you're saying that theroth.com, who is a very reputable site, ran this. I'm not saying that I believe it 100%, but I'm just saying that they have information that we have not heard before, and we have heard before. See, that's the thing. This isn't a story that completely blindsided anybody. We have heard for a while that there's been dysfunction at this particular studio. We've seen people leave, and VJ, good on you for talking about the unsung heroes that left, the cogs that we don't know about that were vital to the development of Halo 4 and 5 that are no longer there because they saw the direction that the game was going, and they weren't happy. Their vision wasn't being played out, and they were like, you know what? I'm taking my ball and going home, right? So we don't know that, but listen. They have an opportunity to fix the problem. They have over 15 months to get it done. And I'm sorry, again, whether that is a change in leadership from top to bottom, or is that someone coming down and rallying the troops, I don't know how they're going to fix this problem, but they got to fix it because it's freaking Halo. And there's no excuse. This is not a new IP that if it shits the bed, you can just wipe it away. This is Halo. Halo is Xbox. Xbox is Halo. That's the end of the story. You got to fix this problem. And no excuse you can give me currently as a fan who's going to buy this day one, who's going to get the collector's edition, who's going to get the coinciding controller, who's going to buy the Series X Halo edition console. You can't tell me that my investment into this franchise is unimportant. You have to fix it. I don't care how you get it done. Just get it done. And before we move on to the next topic, and this is where we're going to start changing. We're going to start. It's going to become unicorns and rainbows all day long once again. Woo! Which is what you tune into this channel for. We have to thank a couple of people. Sure. We have Steel Rain, who not only became a channel member, he drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, never able to catch catch live to voice my opinions, though I'm always listening like a fly on the wall. Well, how about like a Spider-Man on the wall? I think that's better. He's always listening too. Thank you for the super chat. And of course, thank you for becoming a channel member. Sin Vendetta, another generous friend of the show, drops an additional $10 super chat and says, the same issue that sounds like we're going on at 343 Industries for Halo are also similar issues that were going on at Destiny with the new Star Wars at Disney with the new Star Wars trilogy. That's a great point, Sin. And we know how that turned out. That's not so good. We have Avis Plush Productions drops a very generous.
I like Rise of Skywalker. How dare you?
Don't bring that here. You're gonna get kicked off the show. Aris Plus Productions drops an outstanding, very generous $5 super chat and says, PlayStation creates games with no official launch date. It's done when it's done, but when Xbox does the same thing, it's a negative. 343 creating for 5+ systems. I mean, listen, dude, I understand what you're saying, and I can hear the frustration in the way you're writing it, and I agree. I think that there is certainly a double standard when it comes to Xbox. I will admit that. But that's not a double standard that comes from me. I hold everybody's same toes to the same fire. And again, the one thing that Sony does really good, and this is their marketing, is they sell hope. And they go and they put a trailer out for said game. Said game isn't coming out for 5 years, and people want that game so bad that they go out 5 years before that game comes out and they buy said console. And that's what they did with Spider-Man. That's what they did with God of War. That's what they did with The Last of Us 2. That's what they did with Ghost of Tsushima. I can go on. And all of those experiences that may not be your bag, they're my bag for sure, which is why I own a Sony machine. I play all their first party games. That storytelling, that over the shoulder, that adult theme, that's what I like. Maybe not what a lot of people like, and that's fine. But that's why I support Sony that way. And I know that Microsoft has the studios that can do it. Obsidian, Playground Games, Ninja Theory. I mean, you can keep going on and on. They have the talent. The games are coming. They are coming. But man, I mean, folks, you got to be somewhat let down. If you're a Halo fan, if you're a Microsoft fan, you got to be like, damn, man, I really wanted Halo at launch. Okay, it's not going to be there at launch. I hear you. You know what? I forgave them. I let it go. And then this report came out, and I'm like, whoa, hold on a sec. Hold on. The TV show is somehow affecting the development of a flagship game? Whether that's true or not, it's out there. So it's now.
And the one thing too, because like I usually try my best to stay away from the comparisons of like PlayStation v Xbox, but they always come my way. Is that as a PlayStation fan, yeah, like I'll take a Last of Us delay, even though it's annoying, but I know what I'm getting out of that game, right? Like I know what I'm getting out of a God of War. I know what I'm getting out of Insomniac. These developers have really good track records, right? Yeah. So like that's why we'll take a delay out of Cyberpunk. Why do we take so many delays out of Cyberpunk? Well, we know that they made The Witcher 3. It's one of the greatest RPGs ever made. Period. So it'll be like, okay, take your time. 343 has not gained that trust by many, myself included, of like, oh yeah, you know what? Delay game. Take your time, whatever, man. They have not earned that in the face of gamers right now, right? You talk about Halo 4 being divisive in terms of its multiplayer. We talk about Halo 5 being goddamn freaking boring as all hell single player. I'm sorry I said it, all right? It's boring. It's a boring single player. It's boring. But, you know, they do have track records of taking those games and improving upon them over time. Master Chief Collection, Halo 5 is another great example of like, yeah, taking games that didn't do well critically or didn't take up with the fans well in the beginning and improving upon them. So why this matters so much is we have a company here who has a track record of hitting that foul ball, making it up for it in the end. But what they really need is that Cyberpunk moment of like, or Witcher moment of like making something that is going to redefine what is a single player first person shooter experience. That's what 343 needs to deliver on.
Yes.
You know, it's been delayed this many times and now indefinitely. You know, they need to gain trust with the broad fans. Maybe it may be good for you, But understand, it's about perception, right?
Mhm.
What's good
Right.
for me is not necessarily going to be good with everybody else, So that's kind of my thoughts on that. They need to earn that trust.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think, and listen, folks, I'm not throwing the towel in on 343 Industries as a whole. I'm saying that some direction needs to come from management, and maybe management needs to be directed better. And once that happens, once there's a goal that everyone can agree on, and a vision that everyone can agree on, they can fix this game. And I think that it's going to be fixed. I have confidence that in 15 months, when this game comes out, or folks, when it's done. Now, if that's another 2 years, well, then you know what? Fuck it. Just make it. Don't, when people ask for updates, say, you know what? Pull a Blizzard. It's done when it's done. We'll release it when it's done. You know what? They can't argue or fight with you if you tell them that. If you tell them it's going to come out November 15th, 2021, and you slip past that date because you guys are having infighting and whatever else is going on, it's a problem. We'll show it to you when it's done. Let the rest of their other studios take the reins. Let those other studios be your face men. Okay? If it all of these games that are coming out, Fable, the new RPG from Obsidian, let that be the face of your franchise. And when Master Chief is done, he will step out and we will all bow to him. But enough of this. I mean, we're an hour and 5 minutes into the show, and I want to talk about Battletoads because you see, this is a game that I had the absolute pleasure of playing behind closed doors at Xbox Fan Fest at E3 2019. And I got a chance to talk with the devs that were there. I was able to record some video for the channel, which I did. And, again, folks, I'm an old school cat, right? So I grew up with an arcade. See, a lot of people can't relate to that because some people just, arcades are not around. In Japan, they're still big. In America, not so much. There's some places that still hold on to the past. But like for me and my brother Neo Mental and a few of my other friends, Jay the Destroyer and Jay the Retro Gamer, we all worked at Funkoland. So we all hung out afterwards. We all became brothers, more so than just, co-workers. And we used to have like a Friday night kind of a thing, right? We'd go to Nathan's, which is right across the way. And the big Nathan's, the hot dog maker, they make the really good French fries. They had an arcade aspect that housed at least 100 machines. So we would leave work and we'd go over to Nathan's. We'd hang out there for 2-3 hours and we'd play all the latest games. And some of the games that especially me and my brother loved playing, that we still love playing to this day, are side-scrolling beat-em-ups. And we just saw a big one release in Streets of Rage 4, which was a passion project for a team that got permission from Sega to make it. And it was a masterpiece. It looked beautiful. Yeah, I remember playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Turtles in Time.
Hell yeah.
Okay, I remember playing The Simpsons 4-player arcade, right? I remember playing The Avengers. I remember playing the X-Men arcade. That was awesome, right? Well, Battletoads actually did have an arcade release in '94. At that point, the franchise, I don't know how good it was. I don't remember playing it, but in 1991, we saw the inception on the original Nintendo Entertainment System, short for NES, and Battletoads broke my and my brother's balls to no end. It was hard as you couldn't believe, but it was fun, and we played it and we enjoyed it. They saw another release where they teamed up with Double Dragon in 1993, and of course, like I just talked about, they had a full-on arcade release, which was a side-scrolling beat 'em up. I believe it was 3 players at the time in '94. And, the franchise has remained dormant until one of the 3 heroes known as Rash, and there was 3 of them. You have Rash, you have Zitz, and you have Pimple, made his way to Killer Instinct on the roster. And that was awesome. They did a really good job with him, and he was a fantastic addition to, of course, the game. But dlala Studios Okay, now you may not know who they are, and I went and I did my due diligence to kind of give you a background of who this studio is, and this is a game that you're going to hear on the internet is Game Pass filler. It's not worth anything. That's why it's in Game Pass. And I'm going to tell you that if you're one of these people, I'm going to block you for being an a-hole, because what you're doing by saying that is denouncing the work of a game that you probably haven't even played. And I am telling you, I've been playing it for the last 4 or 5 hours. Thanks to Luke Lore, I was able to get my a review code, which I'm going to be doing a review on the game. And I am absolutely in love with it. It is everything that I could possibly want from a side-scrolling beat-em-up game. It has action. It's fun to play. It is a button masher, sure, but there's a lot of skill behind it. The hand-drawn artwork is not to be believed. And I think where it shines is not where it shines is in its multiplayer. Now, the only downside, where I take a point right off, is that there's not currently online multiplayer. It's couch co-op only. So that is a bit of a bummer, but that is the only issue with the game that I personally have, is that there's not multiplayer online. And considering that there are a lot of people that are sheltering in place, you might have enough people to sit on your couch and play, especially if you're a parent, because you can lower the difficulty where it's just mindless fun, and you can play with the kids. And I listen, I'm going to say this, and I'll say this in my review, but I'm going to say this: the best compliment that I can give this game is on its own merits. It is so well written. It is so well designed, and the artwork is so pristine that it could be logistically a Saturday morning cartoon and you would not know the difference. That is how well this game looks and plays. And I encourage anyone that has Xbox Game Pass to please, at least before you shit on this game, because there's going to be a lot of people doing it, play it first. If side-scrolling beat-em-ups aren't your thing, I hear you. But you got to play the game in order to talk shit about it. That's all I'm going to say. But let me bring the near 400 people already here to find out who dlala Studios actually is. And within the first 6 months of forming the studio, they released a Windows 8 launch title where they were featured on the front cover of Develop magazine. And the name of the story was 2 Guys, 1 Game, No Cash. And they moved into Microsoft Game Studios in the Soho offices, where they were the first ever internally incubated studio. Now, since its inception, the studio, which is located in Essex, England, and over the course of 8 years have released several titles that include Overruled and another one called Jansky, which is, of course, a physics-based adventure game. And they're currently in production of another game called Nothing to Fear. So they have had some hits. They have worked on a multitude of games. And like I said, I want to encourage it. And I'm not getting paid for this. I don't know anybody at dlala Studios. I'm sure I know people at Microsoft, but they're not paying me to say this. I'm telling you, as someone who grew up on side-scrolling beat-em-ups, this is definitely worth your time if you're willing to invest just a smidge of your busy day to try it out before you dump on it. But you know what? I want to bring the panel in because obviously I've talked enough, and I'm going to start with Zemi. Zemi, obviously the game released for some early yesterday and officially at midnight tonight in Xbox Game Pass. Have you had a chance to play it, but have you been keeping your ear to the floor regarding dlala Studios' Battletoads?
I have not been keeping my ear to the floor. I have played it. Literally, like whenever we were towards the end of the last topic, I already had it pre-downloaded it and I loaded it up and I played it for probably about 10 minutes, literally while listening to you guys talk about the last topic.
Okay.
And I will say this: I'm not a fan of like the side-scrolling beat 'em up kind of games. I'm just not really. That's just not what I'm looking for as a gamer.
Okay.
I enjoyed that stuff back whenever I was a little kid playing like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the Power Rangers game on like my Super Nintendo. but not really my thing now. But however, I will say this: I did enjoy, the game for what it was. I thought that the gameplay was, very smooth. The dialogue seemed pretty funny. And I also really like the gameplay element that they had, where like you could tag in, like, I guess,
Yes.
your other frog brethren or whatever. Now there is one thing that is kind of confusing me though. Isn't a zit and a pimple the same thing? And why did they name two characters like basically the same thing? Right?
They're frogs, and they've been named that since 1991, dude. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way,
Oh, all right.
But I enjoyed the game for what it was. I'm probably not. I might hop in it and play it a little bit more.
No,
later on
notice how you
today,
said
or-
hop when talking about frogs. Good play on words.
That was not even intentional. But I will probably wander back into the game. Does that work? No pun that time. Okay.
Yes, Wander's good. Wander's good.
Yeah. I'll probably try it out again. But it's not going to be like a game I perceive myself in beating or anything. But it is it's a fun, solid game. I wouldn't go as far to say it's Game Pass filler in any way.
Right. Well, I mean, listen. I think that's a derogatory term when you're offering in this, a multitude of different genres for someone that's going to pay $15 a month. I think Game Pass filler is just it's like calling someone a pony or an Xbot. These are terms I find to be derogatory, and if I'm not following you, it's because you've used them, and if you continue to use them and you get them into my timeline, I just started blocking people. And again, I had been taught the ways of the force of blocking, thanks to Wilmy Hood, and I've come to the realization that blocking and muting has cleaned up my timeline very nice. And if you use these terms, filler and Xbox and pony and stupid stuff like that, I'm just going to block you. So I'm glad that you did stress that it isn't filler. It's just another genre. And you got to think about this for a second, folks. In the same week that Battletoads released, and again, maybe not your thing. Maybe you don't like hand-drawn art. Maybe you want realistic graphics like God of War. And if that's your bag, man, I'm right there with you, because I want that too. But I also have a tremendously wide palette of what I enjoy playing. In the same week that this game, this cartoon, this hand-drawn Saturday morning cartoon is available, so is Flight Simulator. And maybe that's not your bag either. But you know what? Two different genres on two ends of the spectrum, and a whole lot of games in the middle. And if you're not a Game Pass subscriber, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you're missing out. You're definitely missing out. But Joe, I want to go to you next one, because you obviously are someone that understands that you can enjoy more than just one genre. Now, I don't necessarily know if this is for you. A perfect example of different genres is the game that came out on PlayStation Plus that is a raging success. It is called
Fall Guys.
Fall Guy, yes, which I and again, it's a colorful, funny game that in its core literally makes no goddamn sense. But you know what? It has the Rocket League effect.
Yeah.
It came out. No one heard when you first saw Rocket, you were like, "This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen." Soccer cars, and guess what? I platinumed that game because I could I could not stop playing that game. I loved it, and I loved it so much. I bought it on every platform available. How do you like them apples? So again, Fall Guy. No one expected it. What did people start doing when it wasn't working initially? They were dumping all over it, and I came to its rescue. Good old Boomstick was like, "Listen, please give these people a chance." Even Alana Pierce was begging people to give it a chance, and it's a raging success. So now I'm not saying that Battletoads is going to be a raging success. I have no idea, but is it a game that people should at least try?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the power. Like, first off, I'm right there with you, right? Again, I should be like, oh, it's a Game Pass for this game, obviously. Did not take, I should be one of those people. Not video games are awesome, and I hate that phrase because people worked on this, guys. And when I hear that, the only thing I could say is like, oh, so like you don't have any talent yourself, so you just want to demean others because you're a miserable person. I get it. That it really that type of language really pisses me off, and it's something that we need to exterminate ASAP. That type of attitude really pisses me off. Now, I've tried this game for about like 40 minutes while I was like dead tired. It wasn't my shtick. I'm not into the shmups, the blups and all that stuff.
Right.
I once was when I was a kid. I loved Turtles in Time. So, it's not for me. Does that mean it's not for everyone else? Absolutely not. Right. Like there's something for everyone in Game Pass. And that's the cool thing is like, even though this game's probably not for me, and I think it's one of the things is because I suck in these games and I want to play it with people, and it sucks that it's not multiplayer. So I understand why it would be getting dinged that way. But like, I don't look at Metacritic. I don't look at any I have a trusted few people that I trust with reviews, and that's who I stick to. People that I feel have the similar palette as to mine. So like, I don't give a shit what the Metacritic is. I don't know what Metacritic is. I don't care. I never will.
77 right now, or something like that.
Good for them. To me, Game Pass is awesome because this game, people get to try with pretty much no hurting to their wallet, because let's be honest, if this game was like $20, whatever the case may be, and I didn't like it, I'm out $20, right? So just having the ability to try it out and then go, okay, well, maybe this game's not for me, let's go try a Flight Simulator. That's awesome. That's the power of Game Pass. I don't understand how people are still stuck on that Game Pass filler bullshit. Not every show on Netflix is Stranger Things, right?
Great point.
Sometimes you get a Tiger King, but still, even with Tiger King, there's fun to be had there, right? Like we found out a Luger doesn't fire without a clip. It definitely does, kids. So like, just because this game is for me, I'm not here to trash it. This game obviously had development woes, and dlala was able to pull it off at the end. So I'm happy for that team. I'm happy for them. Hopefully I get past Act 1 so I unlock that Sea of Thieves ship. Because guess what? Though Battletoads didn't work for me, I tried it out because of Sea of Thieves. And Sea of Thieves I'm trying out because Game Pass,
that ship is dope, by the way.
It is dope.
It's
dope, awesome.
For sure. Yes.
Yeah.
And you and Luke and a few others have been sailing the high seas recently.
Yeah. And you know what's really annoying? He wants to befriend everybody. I'm like, Luke, you can't befriend people. This is Sea of Thieves. If they have their alliance flag up, fine.
So
but if they don't,
bad pirate.
He's awful. He's like the pirate's life made for me. I'm like, no. If we were in the 1400s right now,
too much of a good guy is what you're saying.
Yeah, he would have been dead a long time ago. Either scurvy was going to take him out, or a pirate, because he's bad at it. He's just bad.
I mean, listen, folks. I don't want this topic to go on too long because, like I said, you've heard what I said about it. Most people haven't played it. I have a tremendous amount of investment into the game simply because, again, it scratches an itch being an old school cat. And I hope that people just play it. I just hope that people give it a shot because it is really something to behold. Again, I've always had a soft spot for hand-drawn animation, and this has such. I mean, the best word I can use, it has personality. Again, maybe not your bag, maybe it's not your type of game, but it has a tremendous amount of personality, and I think people should at least give it a shot. Archimedes, let's go to you next on, dude. But before I bring you into the conversation, let me just catch up on some of the super chats. We have Smitty Smith, a very good and generous friend of the show. He says this: Begadix.com just unfollowed you, boom, on Twitter, LOL. I think they've probably reported me for calling them out live on the air, and if that's the case, then so be it. But thanks for the super chat, dude. We have Y9 Power with the $2 super chat. Thank you for your generosity, and more importantly, thanks for hanging out. He says Archimedes needs it's arcades. No, wow, I almost named the wrong person. Arcades need exclusives like home consoles do.
They do. They have those, like the Halo game.
Yes, and the Halo game is dope, by the way. I really wish that it's never going to come to the console, but I wish it would. Thanaros drops it. He's a very good friend and a generous friend of the show. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, why aren't people talking about the number of first-party games being released this month? It's something that we are going to cover. We want to get all these games out, and we're going to say we're going to take a step back when we say, okay, listen, Microsoft first party, they released all these games. Here are all the scores. We're going to talk about them. We're probably going to talk about that next week. That's probably something we're gonna bring forth, because there are a lot of first party stuff coming out, and it is worth a conversation for sure. Archimedes, again, I don't know if you got a chance to play it. I don't know if this is your type of game. But being a dad, being someone that is home with the kids, and sometimes you just don't know what to do with them because they're all over the place. This might be a game that you can sit down with the family and actually play through. And I think it's something that the kids might dig simply because of its color palette and the fact that it is like a living cartoon.
Oh, for sure. If my kids were only a little bit older so that I could actually play, but it's hard to play with a 2-year-old.
Oh, okay.
But no, you're absolutely right. I played it this afternoon a little bit. I played it about an hour during my lunch break and about 45 minutes in between 2 Skype calls. So that's the beauty of home working from home.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know, 1.5 to 2 hours into the game, and I really dig it. It's great. I loved these brawlers back on the Super Nintendo. We didn't have many arcades here in Germany. It was never really popular here, but I played a lot of these kind of games on the PlayStation, on the Super Nintendo, the N64. In that kind of era, we had so many fantastic of the side-scrolling games. The Sega, of course, Streets of Rage,
yeah,
which by the way released earlier this year. I think they are getting a revival this year. Street of Rage 4 was awesome. Now we have another one. If you like the genre, the game is really well done. The action is on point. The graphics look really well. What's the English word for that? Well crafted, so well drawn, great. Yeah. Hand drawn, awesome. They look great, and I can't emphasize enough how good the soundtrack is. I was so surprised by that. It's fantastic. Yeah. So I don't know what to say else. It's a really fun game. Like Joe said, it is perfect for Game Pass because it is probably not a game many would buy, but if you just can try it out, have a few hours of fun with it, it's fantastic for that. And Microsoft is knocking it out of the park this week. I mean, come on, Flight Sim, really, really great reviews. I think it's a 93 right now on Meta.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now this game, that's fantastic.
You also have Wasteland 3 coming out. You also have Tell Me Why, which looks amazing. I know Zem is looking forward
to it. I cannot wait for that.
I'm super excited about that.
Oh my God. I'm a huge Life is Strange fan, so that's right up my freaking alley, man.
This is, again, a good week for a Microsoft fan, good week for Xbox fan, good week for Xbox Game Pass subscriber, for sure. VJ, I know that you said you didn't get a chance to play it. You actually said that right before the beginning, and you weren't going to have a lot to say. But I'm going to come at this from a different angle.
Okay.
But not so much the game itself. I mean, obviously, you've seen what the videos look like. You've heard what the people are saying. In your opinion, as someone that has been on the creative side of gaming, isn't it better before people start dumping on a game to at least give it a shot? Like maybe it doesn't from the surface level look like a game for you, but after playing it, maybe you could come around on it. Should people at least give this a shot?
I think in this day and age, if you're listening to opinions and basing your own sort of coming to a conclusion based on other people's opinions, then there's something wrong with you. You must try every game, just to broaden your general horizons. And I do have some thoughts on Battletoads. Look, I'm from a generation like you, Boom. I grew up on games like Metal Slug, Strider, Magician Lord. My favorite games were Bad Dudes versus Dragon Ninja. I would skip school and just plow my money into that.
I love it.
That arcade was right next to a very smelly fish and chip. And I remember it really, really clearly. And I love Rolling Thunder, Ninja Turtles. I even love Smash TV. So this game is right up my back, right up my alley. And I will tell you one thing that might make you laugh, and it might have been you, Boom, who arrested me, is that I was underage playing in arcades in central London. At that time, I needed to be 18 years old. And once I was arrested and bundled into the back of a police van, and I'm pretty sure it was you as the arresting officer. I'm not sure. Yeah, I absolutely agree and I concur, and 100% is there has been many games. And I'll just cite one. Days Gone was one game which I looked at it and I saw the backlash, but by chance I managed to play it and I thought, wow, this game is actually really, really good. So yeah, I've learned my lesson many times over many console generations, even far back as Motor Tune GP and Parappa the Rapper, which I kind of looked at very oddly, but I surprisingly I love those games. So yeah, I think that looking at a game is one thing, but trying it can change your impressions completely.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for the story. I love bringing up classic stories, especially with me and my brother Neo Mental and our friends. And it's great to hear your story. You know something? I became a popo when I was 22 years old. Man, I was a baby. But you know what? It just was. It wasn't London, so maybe it was my twin brother that I don't know exists. If you're listening, twin brother, reach out to me all through DM and we'll make this thing public. But listen, folks, this is again small topic. All I can say is this: dlala Studios has crafted something tremendously impressive. I applaud them for saving this game, which I'm not sure who it was talked about it. Did have some development woes, and the turnout, the end game is an absolutely stellar side-scrolling romp. I'm going to play through this game multiple times. I can tell you that right now, a multiple amount of times, simply because I love. Not only do I enjoy the Battletoads, I just think the writing is so witty. It's so spot on for these characters that it's a game that I just highly recommend that you at least give a shot. And again, one point, if you want to take off, is disappointing, and we have to talk about it, is the fact that it didn't launch with online multiplayer. From what I understand, that is something that they are working on right now. It's couch co-op, and I think it was Zemi that actually touched on it. Playing single player is really interesting because, like in most side-scrolling games, you pick a character and you're said character until you have to drop another quarter in, or you press start again and continue, and you can pick a different character. You have complete control over who you use out of the three Battletoads, and you can switch them on the fly, which is awesome. It's something I've never seen before done in a side-scrolling beat 'em up. So it is definitely good on you for bringing that up, Zemi. That's a great point. But what I want to do is, this is where the saltiness of today's program, and I feel that this is going to be so salty. It's going to be so Sea of Thieves salty because everybody here has a different opinion. I think the only two that actually agree might be, and I say might with a big M, might be me and Archimedes. I want to talk about the price of the Xbox Series X. This has been a point of contention for days. And the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because of just that. And we've heard, if you recall last week, or it might even been earlier this week, there was, of course, that, very heated exchange between Alana Pierce and Rich from Review Tech, who made a video saying that she said the price of the Series X was $600 based on a photo that was sent to her DM through someone that she knows that, of course, will remain nameless. Another report came out where, thanks to an energy drink that Microsoft and Halo have, I believe it's Monster, has an ad campaign with. The mathematicians of the interwebs, which, again, roaming mathematicians, not the smartest in the bunch, but if you want to use them for your taxes, you go right ahead. That's fine. They somehow put their heads together, they're very small heads, and they figured out that based on the price that was there, oh my God, They broke it down, and they did the variable points, and they moved point 1 to point 3, and they said, "Yep, we figured it out. $599, $600." And what they forgot to figure out was taxes and the fact that they were going to be paying for a copy of course, Halo Infinite, which was removed from the conversation simply to do videos to get you to click on them and say Microsoft sucks, and they don't suck. And this is where we're going to get into the saltiness. Now, look, obviously, besides 2020 being a year that everyone wants to put behind them, the one shed of light, in my opinion, on the horizon that could save at least the gaming entertainment looking folks is the highly anticipated releases of the PlayStation 5, whether it's digital or the disc one, or the Series X and the soon to be announced Series S. It is the one thing that is going to be the highlight. It's the one saving grace, but one of the more frustrating aspects of what's going on, besides the world taking a shit, is that we do not know when the systems are launching. We have an idea thanks to some leaked stuff. We think the 13th for the PlayStation 5, the 6th for the Xbox Series X and S, unconfirmed. But the two other main particular points that we don't have are, of course, the pre-order dates, which I think is super important. And for me, as someone who kind of just wants to lock it down and make sure that I get my version, and the price. And the price has gone in many circles of debates from as high as $600+ because if, like, for instance, Rich from Review Tech, who'll never know who I am, but I know who he is. Rich could be he could be controversial. Let me just say that. But I still like his stuff. And he did a video a couple of days ago where the chip inside, the chip that's currently running the Series X, costs as much as the Xbox One X when it launched. It was, according to him, according to what he knows, it's $500.
Oh boy!
Which is, if it's $500 for the chip, that's some questions, folks, because SSD, packaging, right, everything else.
We're getting a really good deal if the console costs $500.
It pretty much exactly. If it's $500 and Microsoft is taking a loss, and we're getting a monster machine for $500. But you see, there are a lot of people that believe, and I'm not going to speak for him, but there are some people on this panel, I'm going to let him come in afterwards and make his play for this, that think that in 2020, a $400 console and a massive loss is sustainable just based on the newest numbers that put Xbox Game Pass over 15 million. And they're making a lot of money. They're making a lot of money on this service. And I don't know. I mean, Microsoft, again, in my opinion, is the one company that can afford, quote unquote, maybe not want to, but afford to take a more substantial loss than, let's say, for instance, Sony. Not saying that Sony doesn't have a lot of money. I'm just saying that where the companies are on the level of what they're worth, Microsoft is in a better position. Let's just say that. Now, if you listen to Wilmy Hood's show last night, which was Gaming Outside the Box, I was a guest with Dealer Gaming. And Dealer seems to now think Microsoft is in a position where they don't need to be that to be that cutthroat with the price, because you can play your Xbox games on anything. You know, obviously they have the new dashboard that the information was just released, that you can sign into multiple locations at the same time, so you can be able to play your Xbox anywhere. I still believe that they have to be cutthroat. But again, that's where our opinion's different. He thinks no, and I think they still have to be because they're behind the market leader. But Zemi, you, my friend, have been going on for days in the DM. Folks, our private DM normally is like, hey guys, how you doing? I'm playing this, or have you heard this story? The last couple of days has been what would be a Bible of text going back and forth. And Zemi, I bring you in first because you in your heart of hearts and in your theories believe that this is going to be a $600+ machine. Jesus Tell the people why.
Well, let me just say this. Like, I'm going to make a lot of people mad because obviously a lot of people want it to be a $500 console because, you know, I mean, we don't want to pay $600. I understand that. And I'm going to make a lot of people mad. But I truly feel like 95% positive it is going to be $600. And let me tell you why. Like, just starting off, we know that the power in the Xbox Series X is really, really good. It's really up there. It's being said that it has the power of a GTX 2080, right? And just looking at what you get for PC versus console, we have to look at it like this. A GTX 2080 right now, if you go on to PC Part Picker, the lowest price that you can find for that part is $700, right? $700 for one part, but you still need 6 to 7 other components to even have a computer that is going to turn on, much less play games, right? So at that point, then you're looking at probably at least $1,500 to have a computer that is capable of doing the same thing as a Series X. So, you know, to say like the Xbox is going to be $500, I don't think so. I don't see it because this technology from AMD that's going into this new console is very, very, very new technology, and it's it's compatible with what Nvidia does with their 2080. I just don't. I think it's going to cost more.
Which,
right?
by the way, it's been confirmed thanks to that event in Germany that the ray tracing in this console is better than a 2080 Ti on max settings.
I mean, and to get that, you got to pay a price, right? And I just don't see how they could do that for $500. $600, I think, is more acceptable. I think another thing that we also have to look at is historically, all of this generation, Microsoft has launched their console $100 more. In 2013, it was a terrible decision, right? But then later on, whenever we were looking at the Xbox One X, they still launch it $100 more than PlayStation. It was rumored that PlayStation, like the cost of production was $450. That, you know, kind of has people thinking that the PlayStation.
No, it's actually gone up since then.
Has it?
It's over $500.
Okay. So I mean,
yeah.
So I mean, even still, you know, we have to remember that the Xbox has better hardware in it that is probably going to cost more, but there's other ways of cutting costs, like like the heating system and whatever, like the cooling system. Right. But even still, one would imagine that the Xbox cost of production would cost more with it being a more powerful system than the PlayStation, right? I think another thing to also think about as well is that Phil, on multiple occasions, and Matt Booty has even also said this, is that console sales are not their biggest, attention right now. They're not worried about how many consoles they can sell because obviously we know that their business model has shifted from Sony's, right? They care about services. They sell games on PC. We've seen them. They've put Halo, they've put Grounded, they've put Sea of Thieves, I believe, on Steam, right? Yeah. Much less it being also on Game Pass for PC, but on Steam directly for consumers to buy, right? We know that them selling consoles is not the biggest deal. We also know that Microsoft has multiple avenues to getting players into their ecosystem, whether it be PC gamers playing their games on PC, whether it be, people playing their games on smartphones with xCloud, or whether it being them buying the cheaper console in the Xbox Series S that's still rumored, that hasn't been actually announced yet, but we very much feel like it's going to be announced, right? So they have multiple avenues of getting people in their ecosystem. And if you want to have the best experience on Xbox, then you have to pay that money for it, being $600. And if you have a hard time paying that, conveniently enough, I believe they made Xbox All Access, that program, with a $600 price in mind. Because we know Xbox also really likes to play the long game, right? They played the long game perfectly this current generation with setting up Game Pass, with eventually getting the most powerful system, with doing all of this different stuff, right? And Boom, you mentioned something in our DMs that's very interesting about how Phil has specifically said that they're not going to be out on price or power this next generation. If the Xbox Series X is $600, well, we already know that it's still the most powerful console. So there's power. And we know that the Xbox, well, we can assume or possibly rationalize that the Xbox Series S is going to be less than the PlayStation 5 digital, because it kind of seems that the PlayStation 5 digital is going to have the same hardware as the regular PlayStation 5. The only difference is that it doesn't have a disc drive, whereas the Xbox Series S is less powerful, and I believe it also is rumored to not have a disc drive. So chances are that's going to be the cheaper or the cheapest console option comparing both Xbox and PlayStation. So under that theory, that would still go with what Xbox has said on not, being out on power or on price.
I mean, you make a lot of sense, and I think the highlight of the conversation has to do with what is inside of this console. There is no doubt what they have packed into the technology that's going into this console will outdo, potentially, based on what we've seen on the 15 slides, I believe maybe 19 of them that showed what they're doing with this console, potentially outdo a $2,500 PC. So if it can outdo a $2,500 PC or a rig, if you want to call it that, and make the master race cry in the corner to their mommy, then maybe $600 has you have a point with your $600 price. But Joe, you, my friend, coming from a PlayStation mentality, have a different theory. Do you think they could logistically release a $600 console, knowing that they've already said, and the rumor is the Series S will be half the price of the X and we've heard the rumor, folks, $299. I still think it's going to be $249, but that's just my opinion. Do you see this console releasing this November 6th, potentially, allegedly at $600?
Yes, yay and nay, man. It's anyone's ball game. It's anyone's guess. I think we can all throw a number on a wall and we'll be correct one way, shape, or form. I think Zemi makes a lot of points. When Daniel Ahmed came out with the original estimate of the PlayStation 5, I believe it was somewhere between the cost of the system alone, $460 to $487. And part of the reason why it's so pricey is because of the mobile market and the RAM that is going up in price and whatnot, and production issues because of the situation at hand. At Archimedes, you could just ring the bullshit detector if I sound like it. From what I've been aware of, when it comes to hardware and when it comes to chipsets, usually the bigger chips cost more to produce because there's more transistors and things like that nature to put on said chips.
You basically pay for die area. This is it doesn't matter what's on there, more or less. Of course there's always to a certain degree a difference, but you don't pay what is on there. You would simply pay for the size of the die.
Yeah. And so when I take a look at that, I'm like, okay, so it's going to be an expensive chip. Now, that said, take everything you hear from Review Tech with the smallest grain of salt you could find in your cabinet. So when he says the chip alone costs $500, he could be 100% correct. But we've also seen over the weekend that he doesn't actually do his due diligence. Sorry, Rich.
That is very true.
Okay, let me. You said I should intervene if I hear the BS detector ringing, and
go for it.
If I hear that, I hear it ringing very loud because, again, you pay simply for the size of the die. We know that the Series X die is around about 30% larger than the One X die that is today. So it costs 30% more. And that's it. And we know that the die in the Series X, it's currently estimated to be in between $150 and $180 US. So 30% on that, and you have the price for the die. That's it. Simple as that.
So it's again, bullshit detector ringing true there. I dig it. So also talking about Game Pass, there was an article about it interviewing Aaron Greenberg about how much money this thing actually rakes in, and because of the investment by Microsoft pushing it, like, gang, you've heard all the trolls, right? They'll be like, they're giving it away for $1, for $2. Those are all investments. Microsoft has, don't panic when I say this, lost a lot of money giving people very generous offers when it comes to Game Pass because it's the best deal in gaming. So when I saw memes of like, yeah, it's like, you know, you could get it on a side of a popcorn box for $1 type of shit. It's like, yeah, no doubt. So even Microsoft says right now it's about investing in Game Pass. So it's not like they're printing boatloads of cash. They're still investing in it. So I don't think we're going to see this the biggest payoff ever if or them taking as big of a hit just because Game Pass exists. I think they're really much trying to push Game Pass as this service right now. They're still investing a ton of money into this service. So to me, I don't think that's the magic bullet. Again, I could be totally wrong. I could totally be full of shit. At the same exact time, I think, Zami, you do make a few good points. This console we know is more expensive than the PlayStation 5. We also know that the Game Pass isn't this magic bullet. So we also know here's what the real point was, that Microsoft is willing to take a hit, right? If we're believing everything a CEO says to be fact, which usually I don't, take it with a grain of salt, but Phil Spencer says he has the backing of Microsoft to have power and to have price. And so when I hear that, I'm thinking, okay, realistically, no bullshit. Boom, you've made this point in the DM. This thing can't launch at $600 because the history has shown when you have a console, even at $500, it's really hard to sell. Yeah. $600 is just simply almost a no-go. And seeing where video games is headed to the masses, seeing that both of these consoles, they want them to sell very bad. Yeah, I can definitely see this being at $500, them being able to take the loss on the console, because we also have to mention there's also marketing, there's also advertising that goes into, and then the box and all that shit,
packaging, the shipping,
exactly.
Yes.
Which usually we can, if it's the PlayStation 4 analogy, that's like $70 to $100 right there. So this console is going to be, I've said it, and it's not because I'm the Sony fan. I think both these consoles are going to be too expensive. It's going to be an expensive box. And I'm saying that to keep expectations really level, because if we're going with here's what I think, gang, like the 250 to me, that is too, no, I don't even want to contemplate that, because if that is the case, I'm going to be super happy. And if it isn't, I'm going to be let down. To what extent? I don't know. Maybe 2016 all again, but only time will tell. So to me, I definitely think with the console, realistically, 500. Could 600 actually be a thing? I hope not. I hope not.
I agree.
Because that means, I mean, you like the position that Microsoft finds itself in, and this is what I think at the end of the day, the rant's over, is Microsoft has this console that is the Lockhart, which apparently is about like 20 to 30% more powerful than the One X. I don't think launching that at 400 would be the best idea, because you have to have a wide gap in order to have that value. Because if it's only $100 difference, what is really the point of getting the Lockhart?
I mean,
right?
the original rumor that has come out is that, and this is coming from an inside source, folks, so take it with a grain of salt, is that the Series S is literally half of the price. So if it's 600, then it's $299, it's 300. But if it's 500, which and again, we still have a lot to go with the rest of the panel. I believe it's 500, and they could release these Series S at $250 in a time where people might want to move on to the next generation. And if they could market it right, and that's where we kind of get into the weeds with the marketing. Microsoft needs to make it very clear that this is the second most powerful console, even more powerful than the current Xbox One X, and then you can play all these games for this, and it's $15 a month, and it's $250 to get into Xbox. And again, the reason why I said this, and you guys can quote me on this, this is going back months ago. I said this was going to be the generation of the most multi-plat console homes ever. And the reason why I say that is because traditionally and factually, I believe that Sony is going to sell more consoles. I think that's a fact. I think Sony knows that. I think Microsoft knows that. And I think anyone that's in this podcast, that's on this, that are 400 people that we have here, know that Sony is going to sell more boxes. I think that's fact. But with that said, I think a lot of the 360 folks who left in 2013 for two important factors, price and power, which Sony had, and their first-party games that were Microsoft fans that grew up with Halo, that grew up with Forza, that grew up with Gears, and now we're seeing all of these new first parties bring these games, would easily buy their PlayStation 5, enjoy Spider-Man, Ratchet and Clank, Resistance, Fall of Man, Remake, which we're talking about tomorrow, a whole bunch of other games coming out, but drop another $250 to get the smaller, cheaper box, because that's not their main console, right? They're going to play it for first party, like I do for my PlayStation, and get in Game Pass, and they could sell those consoles. And you know something? Microsoft would be fine with that.
And I think at the end of the day, too, with Halo not being there, it could work for two ways. And again, this is the last point. I swear to God, I'm done. Is is the fact of like, look at the gaming industry right now in the age of the COVIDs, right?
Right.
Everything's selling out like gangbusters. Yes. Everything's doing really well. So if I'm Microsoft or if I'm PlayStation, you're taking a look at the board going, okay, actually, can we get away with selling this at a higher price? And then in a year from now, we can drop it because
you know it's going to sell.
Yeah, because you know it's going to sell. Because, I mean, look, they didn't even drop the price of the PlayStation 4 Pro, and that thing sold out like hotcakes. People are bored, stuck in their homes. So, like, sorry about to get political and everything, but, like, if the second stimulus check actually happens here, people are going to be, I think you're right, like a multi-console house for sure. But that means also more people have the ability to spend on things like Black Friday to keep the economy alive and well.
That's why I think we're going to get the stimulus check. Again, no politics involved. I think the end of October. Just in time for November, in my opinion.
Yeah. Bad Bit 2020.
Listen, I'll vote. I definitely will vote for you for sure. Register as an independent. You got my vote for sure. Listen, Archimedes, you've been sitting here. You've been listening. You and I, we're kind of running the same campaign. I'm interested to know what your thoughts on $600 launch console, $650 and change after tax, which is yikes in this climate, versus potentially $499 and $250 for the Series S. Who is winning this race?
Oh, 600 would be suicide. To be honest, it has been a proven point that you can't go above 500 in the console business, and this is just my view on a very high level. I think Microsoft knows it, Sony knows it. You can't go above 500. This is.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like I understand, like historically, it's a bad thing. I 100% get that, right? But also historically, you know, a company hasn't launched a $600 console alongside a $300 console, alongside a program that allows you to finance, you know, the $600 console for $30 a month, alongside a app that you can download on your phone for a lot cheaper and play all Xbox titles on your smartphone. Right?
Yeah, but I think that ecosystem isn't ready or well known enough for people to understand that yet. The whole value that comes with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, xCloud, being able to play it on PC and stuff like that is, I doubt that this is well enough known to the masses. This is something we hardcore gamers know, and people will get to know it in the next few years. But at this moment, I doubt that the general consumer knows what he is getting if he invests into the ecosystem, and he doesn't have to pay $600 to do that. If you want to play Xbox on your phone, you don't even need an Xbox. So for those people who want a console in their home and not invest into a gaming PC, for them, I still think the $600 is not the price point they are looking for. And before I go into why I think it could be even cheaper than $499, because I have a couple of points to make there. Bad Bit touched on this. The whole situation right now worldwide is people are stuck in their homes and they get to play video games. But what will happen in the next couple of months? Unemployment will raise, and I don't want to go too political, but in the beginning of the lockdown, we all started to work from home. Now people are losing their jobs, and I think Microsoft has said that a couple of times, that they know about that situation, and when it comes to price, and they know how the worldwide economy is right now, and they know that it won't get any better in the next 6 to 12 months. And they also know how important the price point is. They know that it's more important than your launch lineup. It is, in the end, people are going into a shop and they see the price tag of that thing, and they don't look up. Can I play Halo now at launch, or 6 months, 12 months later? That is not the thing. The price tag is probably the most important selling point in the beginning of a generation. And they have the flexibility from the mother company. They know about the situation worldwide. So I doubt that they will try to sell something above 500.
The only thing that I'll push back on that, and I heard this today from CNBC, because I like to watch the stonks from every now and again, is Apple right now is worth $2 trillion. Right? The amount of money in that bank is equal to that of Italy's economy. And the most benefiting factor is the fact that, and I know it's not one-to-one, but is everybody's going out and buying more iPhones, buying more iPads, buying more laptops and hardware because of working from home, also because people are really, really bored.
I have a question. How do they buy those iPhones, typically speaking?
With money?
Yeah, but they go to the AT&T store and they pay $20 a month.
Right. But like, how are people buying iPads, laptops and desktops?
Tax refunds.
So like, to me, like, you're seeing hardware manufacturers raking in a bunch of cash right now. Like Jeff Bezos made like $70 billion in the span of 6 months, and he's not even giving people restroom breaks. So like that's what I'm saying here is, like, right now business is booming for these tech giants and for their hardware. And that's why, like, I'm not saying, like, listen, I would love these consoles to be free. Right? But, like, I'm putting on the business hat on and going, how low can we actually go? And then next year when we have our Halo, be like, hey gang, we dropped the price. It's now $500 with Halo, with Game Pass, and have that true push, I
totally get that argument, and I think this is the only reason we might see actually the $500 price point, because I doubt that Microsoft is aiming or targeting at that point, because people always think they need that big gap in between the Lockhart and the Series X. For marketing reasons or whatever. In fact, I think the reason why they can afford to launch the Series X at a lower price point than $500 is the Lockhart. The Lockhart has two effects, in my opinion. The first is they will sell a ton more Lockhart consoles than Series X consoles. If they sell 10 million consoles in the first year, 8 million of them will be the Lockhart. So that's the first thing. They won't sell as many Series X consoles as we think, and that's why they can much easier afford a bigger loss on those consoles, because they won't sell as many of those consoles. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, we have talked about the chip, the die, how big it is and how expensive it is. The thing is, with the Lockhart in place, they will bring the cost of that chip down significantly. And I can't emphasize that enough. The Series X and the Lockhart will have the exact same chip in it, just with a different binning. And what is the binning? I don't want to go too much into technical details, but when you manufacture a semiconductor, you always have the chance of that something is going wrong during the lithography process. And that means that you can typically only use around about, let's say, 50% of the chips coming out at the end of the line. That is why every chip has redundancies built into the chip. Yeah, we know that. For instance, the Series X, they talked about that. Yeah, they have it will run on 52 compute units. The chip will actually have 56 compute units because they know that a couple of those compute units will be defect when they come out of the line. And then they just deactivate 3 or 4 of the compute units so that every chip has the 52 compute units. That is the same with graphic cards today. A 2080 Ti is the exact 100% identical chip than in a 2080, probably even in a 2070. The only thing is, in those chips are more defects, so they have to deactivate stuff. And that is where the Lockhart comes in. The Lockhart will have the exact same chip. It will have all those chips that didn't come out as planned at the end of the lithography line. But then they don't activate just 4 compute units, but I don't know. I'm guessing now 30 compute units, and they will reduce, of course, a little bit the clock rate because there are a bit more defects in the silicon in these chips and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, they don't have to throw away 50% of their chips. This is what probably their competitor has to do. Yeah, and that is why they can bring down the cost, the effective chip costs significantly with the Series X and of course with the Lockhart. And people always say, okay, the Series X has a bigger chip, there's better hardware in it than in the PS5. They forget how expensive that SSD is. I'm not saying that it balances the two, the chip from Microsoft, the better APU from Microsoft, and the SSD, the better SSD from Sony are balancing themselves out in price, in production price. But I don't think that the pure BOM, the pure manufacturing cost of the two consoles is so significantly different. I really doubt it. And so in the end, it comes down to how good can Microsoft leverage their benefit that they can simply use more or less all dies that come out of the lithography line, either in the Series X or in the Lockhart. And they simply can afford to take a bit bigger loss because they won't sell as many Series X as PlayStation as the PlayStation will do, because they have the Lockhart. They would sell the Lockhart. And now comes my point with the price and why we haven't heard the price from Microsoft yet. I bet that they have fixed the price for the Series X. They don't know where to price the Lockhart. The Lockhart is the bigger gamble for them. They will sell more units. How much of a loss can they take on the Lockhart? It's not the question of the Series X, it's the Lockhart. And that's why they are waiting for Sony to announce the price to see where will they place it. Will they place it at 400 or at 500 US dollars, so that they know where to price the Lockhart, because that's the bigger gamble than the Series X.
That's a great point. I mean, again, really, really well broken down. Everyone's been amazing. But I want to bring VJ into the conversation because, VJ, you talked about in the DM about how you have figured out a way, or at least in your opinion, how they can, in fact, release this at not $600, not $500, but $400 in this economy. Why don't you break that down for us, dude?
No, I'll try to. It's the bad bits kicked me into lecture mode now. With all this.
Go get him.
I do want to sort of caveat this, that this is sort of very theoretical, right? So, but what it should do is provoke some thoughts and help us to sort of have a better understanding once we finish up on this show. So I'll do my best. So in no specific order and time constraint, I'll cover off my points and make of it what you will. So I know some compare, and I've heard you guys chatting right now, the Xbox Series X specs with high-end PC rigs, and point to Phil saying that, you know, he's not really that concerned about selling Series X machines, which I think he's got other connotations and other sort of meaning to it, which we won't go into right now. So, and everybody puts those two together and assumes that it may well be a $600 machine, and that is that's not out of the region of expectation or belief or disbelief, but people are running with that narrative and with that thought process. However, I'm kind of just went back and just wanted to have a look at what Phil actually said, and I was having a look at his interview. I think it was with the BBC, and also I wanted to look at what his kind of try to work out what his intent was behind what he was saying, because they're all nice words, none of it's actually fact, right? I guess we're all educated enough to know that. So what he said is, given these current economic times with many people trying to cope with uncertainty, etc., everyone fighting for their jobs, the price is going to be a critical factor moving forward, and Xbox Series X needs to be affordable. I'm just paraphrasing there, but that's the gist of what I understood of what he was saying. So it all depends on Phil. What does Phil think is affordable, and what he thinks is the investment people are prepared to make into Xbox gaming going forward. So the first question is, does $600 upfront price point make sense for Xbox Series X? For hardcore gamers, maybe for us, we can swallow it. However, it's not really ideal for mass market penetration.
Right.
But the reason this 600 price point may exist is going to towards what Zemi was saying, is the Xbox All Access subscription initiative that allows people to pay for their consoles by paying $24.99, I think, per month over 24 months, and it includes 2 years of Game Pass, which I think is absolutely a fantastic deal. So, however, this is only primarily rolled out in the US, UK to a small extent, and Australia through one vendor. But in my opinion, it should be everywhere.
Yeah, well, they actually, it's funny you should say that, because they're now offering it through Amazon, through Best Buy, through several other places. They said that this was going to be 10 times the amount of market penetration and availability as opposed to the original program.
Yep. And it's finally available outside the US and the UK. Yeah.
So at the moment, from what I can officially see on their website, it's available in the UK, US, and Australia, but it should be everywhere. And the reason why I say that, this is a fantastic gateway drug. Yes. Now, for Xbox, it obtains them 2 years of loyalty, as long as they keep releasing good games and you keep your customers for the 2-year period and beyond. For consumers, this is from my perspective, it's a great way to feel included and allows everybody to experience the highest spec console that Xbox have to offer in an affordable way. So that's the $600 price point. So then we're looking at the is $500 the best price point? The consensus seems to be on this panel, from what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, is that $500 is more realistic and a digestible price.
Yes,
digestible price. But Xbox key objectives from the outset have been to maintain the power narrative, and plus not to isolate or alienate themselves with a higher price point offering than Sony's new machine. We know that, and I know, Boone, you say it all the time, and it's embedded in, it's burnt into my mind. However, I will add that $500 outside of the US, let's forget about America, the world's a big place. $500, and I've spoken to people and I've spoken to friends, is a lot of money for people to lay out upfront on the promise that Xbox will still be good in the future. And I'm talking to sort of working class people here that I know of. So then I started thinking about, and we had a debate about this. I don't remember, guys, Zemi, Boone, we had a debate about this, like about the $400 price point and so on and so. So I started to think about that. How can Xbox inconceivably try to do this strategically, but not emotionally, or just by shanking Sony for the sake of it, as Boone would phrase it? So we all know that services will generate constant cash flow, and it is a key area of revenue growth for Xbox. And I think that and some other elements I'm going to add into this will somewhat help to subsidize a $400 Xbox. Take into account Xbox plus its studios, and I just did some quick elementary mathematics here, so please don't DM me and start harassing me and all that sort of stuff. It's about $550 million in terms of fixed overheads. Yeah, there's a difference between fixed and variable. From what I can ascertain, it's about $550 million in terms of fixed overheads for Xbox plus its studios, right? So, and with just 15 million Game Pass subscribers, at some point we'll be paying $15 per month. That will generate something in the region of about $2.25 billion per annum. right? So just hold these figures in your mind, so to speak. We know that Xbox wants to reach a much wider audience and a bigger number on Game Pass. And we all know, because we talk about Warner Brothers, we talk about studios in Japan, we worry about who they're going to pick up next. We know that they've got big AAA games in the pipeline. So I think it's fair to say that Game Pass is not fully formed and is definitely not the finished article, which is not derogatory. It's just to say we've got more to look forward to. So let's assume that the business plan for Microsoft is to add another 15 million subscribers at $15 each. Hypothetically, that number, another $2 billion in revenue per year, could hypothetically subsidize 20 million units of Xbox Series at $100 each. So, but we also need to figure in that Xbox would be breaking even or marginally profitable at around 8 to 10 million units. And this is, I've been doing some research here and there, so if I need to delve into that, I can do. Or at least they'll be taking a lot less of a hit once they hit the 8 to 10 million unit sales in terms of Xbox Series X. In addition, this is on moving on to something else. In addition, we know that compared to, say, 2014, digital sales for new releases can be up to 70% or more versus the 15 to 20% in 2015. The economic environment has completely changed in terms of how these guys make money. So let's just look at something as an example, because it's all me fair and well saying that, but let's just put it into context. So for first-party games, sales, if you're a first-party a studio and you're selling a game and Sony's selling it, the additional margin that they make is anything between $25 to $30 versus putting it on the shelf through a retailer. That's huge. So if you just take Sony's last two games, Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us, when they reach 10 million units combined, if you take 70% of that, that's almost $200 million in additional margin. That was not feasible or obtainable just a few years ago. So put into context, that further context is that covers the cost of possibly one of Sony's first-party games, or subsidizes 2 million machines at $100. And also what we've got to look at is with all the digital sales in terms of third-party releases, Xbox makes $18 on a $60 release versus the traditional $8 that they would make licensing and manufacturing and shipping physical units for a third-party company, say like EA or Activision. So what you've got to factor in again is that this also cuts down huge overheads in manufacturing at Sonopress, DADC, manpower, logistics, stuff like sales rep fees, retailer participation, MDF costs, which rack up hugely, and Gaming Forte will tell you all about that. Returns, the less of an impact that secondhand market will have on revenues. So if you look at it, so besides Game Pass and maybe substantially more margins from game sales, savings in infrastructure and logistics, what else could foreseeably or hypothetically help Microsoft achieve a $400 machine? So, and I'm not an expert in this field, but I've been sort of looking around, and I'm wrapping up here, just in case anyone's falling asleep. Away from the public eye, one of the major areas of investments and for long-term savings will have been manufacturing techniques and efficient use of sort of stuff like robots, and in effect, again, significantly reducing manpower, which is now costly in China. It's not as cheap as it was back in 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. So all of this will have a deep impact on lowering production costs, units, cost per unit, and also when they're developing this technology, and this is going back to what Archimedes was saying, is increasing yield rates, which everybody knows, right, can be a killer, right, from the outset. So they'll be looking at that as well. And I know that there's been a PS5 bomb, bill of materials costs being floating around that, and Sony are sort of putting, maybe it's just a PR spin, saying, oh, it's costing us this much, so just to let everybody know they're going to be making a loss. But as Archimedes was saying, is that I take everything pretty much with a pinch of salt, anything that's out there, because you don't always get the true picture. They give you a picture, they want you to believe and buy into them. So overall, I think we can relax in terms of hardware pricing being reasonable, or unfortunately, if I may say, the hardware systems at $600 or so is going to be for the very fortunate at best.
Well, I mean, listen, first of all, bravo for that breakdown. I mean, that was, I think, as stout as you could have expected. And this is why I'm glad I've added you to the panel, because you bring a sense of real worth and value to your opinion. And I think a lot of people are going to dig it because you broke down the numbers that someone like me, who's a boob, may not really break down on a general conversation. What I want to say is this. First of all, I want to catch up on a few of the super chats, and then we're going to get everybody out of here. First of all, we have Elemental P, very good friend and a generous friend of the show. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat, and he actually raises a great question that I don't have an answer to. He says, I have my Streets of Rage 4 Collector's Edition on Xbox. Where is the Battletoads Edition? And I agree. I would love to have a Battletoads Collector's Edition because I would buy that. The Living Flame drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, Phil just announced the price already. I'm going nuts. I think everyone is. We also have Ormatus. Or Medius, or I guess it's Ormedius. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, launch at $400 or cheaper. Have been successful because it carries the stigma of it being a toy and not a high-end tech. We have G-Man, a good friend of the show. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, I'd buy a $600 box in a heartbeat. Game Pass is a game changer. Don't focus on box, its overall value. I mean, that's true, and you are getting a mastercraft of a console. We also have Sin Vendetta dropping an outstanding additional $5 super just said, Mr. Badbit, are we all getting Demon Souls remakes at launch?
Yes.
I know he wants it.
I sure hope so.
I will buy it. I will buy it and suck at it, but I will definitely support the company and buy it. I know Sin Vendetta is probably smiling right now. Stubbs Gaming became a channel. Hey, Stubbs, thanks for becoming and supporting Double Barrel Gaming. Super appreciate that. And Mariano Pampa, who just dropped an outstanding $5 super chat, says, just want to say I've learned so much new info. Thank you guys. Thank you for listening, dude. Super appreciate that. And Smitty Smith, our very good friend, bringing us back to church once again, drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, an absolute stellar panel as always. Salute the Book of X. Well, thank you for that. And real quick, we're talking about Phil Spencer. He actually just dropped a massive tweet, and I don't know what this means, but based on what Jeff Grubb had to say last week, I think something is coming. Not just something, meaning one. I think multiple things. Phil just says this in a tweet that dropped, I don't know, a couple of minutes ago. In addition to our first-party games arriving day and date into Xbox Game Pass, the team is focused on bringing many more third-party games to the service as well. And this is coming on, he actually quoted The Verge, where article that says, with titles like Battletoads and Grounded, Xbox Game Pass is inching closer to becoming the Netflix of gaming. And as the fire engine goes by, like it always does when I'm doing my shows live, which of course this show is on fire, I want to thank everybody for being here. We had over 400 folks come out to today's show, and that's a big deal because this is a relatively small channel. Hopefully by the end of today's show, we'll cross the magic 5,000 subs, and that is going to be a party. But of course, I want to thank everyone that tuned in. I want to thank all of course, our moderators. That includes, of course, the Sheriff Lethal Pop. That's UK Dazarus. That's also the Indie Gamer, the White Wolf. There are several people that are mods here that keep these streets safe for you to enjoy your time. Usually it's 2 hours. Today we're closing in on 2.5 hours because everyone's points needed to be heard. And of course, I want to thank everybody with the super chats. Your generosity completely blows me away and continues to humble me each and every show I do. So thank you for supporting Double Barrel Gaming. So let's get everyone out of here in Zemi Games. When you're not cooking, when you're not on TV as the master chef Zemi, you are doing a couple of new things. You're streaming. And of course, that has been doing very well for you. And you're also making guides and supporting your own YouTube channel. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, potentially reach out to you and get a dope ass recipe, and also check out your YouTube channel.
Yeah, absolutely. So on YouTube, you guys can find me at Zimmy Games. That's my gaming YouTube channel where I upload a bunch of Xbox news, tutorials, all that type of stuff. And then I also have a brand new YouTube channel that's called Zimmy Eats, and I do like cooking videos, like recipe videos, food reviews, stuff like that. I actually have one video out on the channel right now and another one coming very, very soon. So if you did subscribe to that, don't think I'm not, going to continue posting content on there. It's just, I've been very busy. And in addition to doing YouTube, I also am streaming on Twitch, which I will be doing here in like an hour and a half, starting at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be playing Stranded Deep, and I'm going to be probably getting attacked by sharks and screaming like a little girl again, like I did the last time I played that game. VJ, I don't know if you watched me. I don't know if you heard the battle cry. That was me screaming like a little girl.
Oh my goodness.
Were you there? I don't know. Anyway, also, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Zimmy Games. I post all the typical stuff, like whenever I go live or if I find some interesting piece of news, I'll always make a post about that. But I also like to say in all of these different shows that I always have my DMs open. I always love having that community interaction with you guys. So if you heard something on today's show that you absolutely agree with or completely disagree with, feel free to send me a DM, let me know, and I'd love to have those conversations with you guys. As always, Boom, thank you so much, man, for having me.
Oh, well, thanks so much for being here, as always. Next up, Mr. Badbit, you obviously are probably going to go and collapse into the corner because you've been up since 4. Tell everyone where they can check out not only you on social media through Twitter, potentially getting you past 2,000 followers so you can make people lie in the gutter as you walk over them and clean your boots because you have 2,000 followers, but also check you out on your awesome podcast known as The Trophy Room. Go ahead, dude. Tell everybody about that.
Oh man! So this week I've been getting a lot of DMs right now, saying how awesome the show was, just having a solo experience. So you know what? Maybe dude. maybe Kyle's days are numbered. Oh, I'm kidding. Please check out the Trophy Room this week. A lot of hard work went into making that show possible. So go over there at Badbit Games on YouTube. You'll find the video version of the Trophy Room there. You can find my podcast, The Trophy Room, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Play, on Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, you can find us there. And listen, I said it before, I'm not kidding around now. Boom, you gave me an ego saying that we're almost at 2,000 followers on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter so I get that ego because, gang, it is true. All right, this is an election year, and let me tell you something, guys. I'm running for president.
Nice.
Badbit 2020. I'm running on a platform of cross-play for every game, and we're going to eliminate Xbox Live and PlayStation Now because everybody deserves to play online without a subscription.
For free. Free is your friend.
Badbit 2020.
Change is coming. Change is coming, guys.
Change is on its way.
Coming. Real quick, we do have breaking news. Z Black Rider, yeah, he actually dropped a $5 super chat.
Am I getting a voter?
Why does IGN own bagadicks.com? I don't know,
man.
But it makes a lot of sense.
I guarantee that site exists, and I advise no one to go to it.
You know what? Challenge accepted.
Don't go to bagadicks.com and say that Boom's
make
at me.
Make sure you have your McAfee activated to the max.
Level, absolutely, okay? For sure, because you're definitely getting a virus. And continuing with the outros, Archimedes, my brother. Listen, you have exploded.
It's real.
Oh God, it is real. Exploded on the scene. Your content has been very well represented by yourself, but accepted by the community. You've been really blowing up, and you're, 2 shakes of a stick away from 1,000 subs on YouTube. And I'm glad to say that I was a part of your journey getting you there, because you obviously are someone that deserves a voice in this community and has the talent and obviously history in gaming to have a successful YouTube channel. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but also check out your outstanding YouTube channel.
Yeah, thank you so much, Boomer. First, let me thank you for having me on the show. It's been as always, a pleasure. It's really become one of my highlights every week to discuss games and gaming with you and the panel. And it's just great to be on the show. Yeah, you can find my YouTube channel and Twitter and Xbox Live and PlayStation Network and everywhere you can find me at Boxenberger. My YouTube channel, yeah, it's been growing. It's fantastic to see. I'm sitting at 900 subscribers right now, so close to the 1,000, which is really, really awesome. And I want to thank everyone who subscribed already. And if you haven't, go check the channel out. And if you like the content, yeah, please drop a sub. I would greatly appreciate it. I'll be taking a break next week with content creating because I'm simply going camping with the kids and wife, so won't be here in the show next week, and won't be able to drop a video next week. But after that, I'll be definitely continuing on this show and of course on my YouTube channel.
I'm laughing not because of that, because of what. Because what Jones dropped into the DM. And I want to read what he said. Listen, a bag of dicks does exist, and it says here, y'all, they sell gummy dicks so that you can send to people who are being dicks. I can't believe I said that live on the air. Anyway, let's get on out of here. We have to obviously talk about VJ. VJ, first of all, this was your first official show as a panel member for, of course, the Xbox Factor podcast, and like your advertisement suggested, you brought the fire, and of course your knowledge in the very different aspects of gaming that you have been involved in came through with shining colors, and it is obviously going to be a tremendous addition to this show. Do me a favor, dude, tell everyone where they can follow you on social media.
Thanks, Boom. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a fantastic journey to actually get this far, so I'm glad my opinions appeal to somebody. I just want to say thanks to Zemi Games. He's really made me feel welcome, and I do my best to hang out with him and have a few chats with him over on Twitch. And he's brilliant. Everyone should go there, actually. I'm disappointed if everybody here in the panel and chat doesn't visit him today. Mr. Badbit, it's always a pleasure. Archimedes.
Of course.
It's fantastic to be on the show with you today. And yeah, you definitely gave me some food for thought, and I really appreciate it. And if anyone's interested, I actually hit 100 followers today on Twitter, which is amazing.
Nice, dude.
Nice.
I'm actually in shock. Right, come through my voice and all my commentary today. And thank you for everybody in the chat for listening in. And Boom, hope we do this again soon. And thank you.
We'll definitely be back at this next week for sure. And of course, tomorrow morning, we're going to have an incredible panel, but we're going to have an incredible list of time. Zelda Skyward Sword being obviously released on a Switch. That is a big deal. And our special guest, King David, that is one of his favorite Nintendo games of all time. So he's going to have a lot to say. We're going to be talking Resistance Fall of Man remake by none other than, of course, Insomniac Games, and they've been hinting and dropping teases, and I wish they would just stop the BS and let us know that this game is real, and a couple of other massive topics, one of which is going to be the delay topic, which I think is something we're going to either hit the second or third topic, because I think some massive delays are coming. And I said this privately, and I'm going to say it publicly. I think take any of the three biggest games that are coming out this fall and remove two of them. And I don't care what order that is. I think we're going to see some massive delays announced in the next couple of weeks, and people are going to be very upset. But I think it needs to happen simply because COVID does exist, and it is making development in every field extremely hard. And we heard about that exact topic from Archimedes. When you're not meeting with your teams one-on-one or in a group, it really does hurt the development process. And I think that's going to show its ugly head this fall. And we'll see whether I'm right or wrong. But anyway, I want to wish everyone a fantastic day. Enjoy your Thursday. Enjoy gaming on whatever you enjoy playing on. And of course, I want to close out something that's important to me, and hopefully it's important to you. And it's something that my dad taught me when I was a kid, made me a better police officer, but made me a better human being at the end of the day. And that is this: treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast.